Okay, I think we can call the Wednesday, January 7th, 2026 meeting of the Falls Church City Planning Commission to order. Happy New Year, everyone. Mr. Trainer, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Polinsky?
Here.
Mr. Duncan?
Here.
Mr. Krasner?
Here.
Chair Comont?
I'm here.
Mr. Stevens?
Here.
Ms. Friedlander?
Here.
Mr. Kravinsky?
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
All right, we have a full house tonight. So the next thing on the agenda is adopting the agenda. Any changes? It's a pretty full agenda tonight. If not, can I have a motion to adopt?
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the meeting agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No speaker series tonight. So the next is receipt of petitions. Mr. Trainer, can you provide a summary of our written correspondence?
Yeah, the commission received one comment or petition from Peng Hainam, who wrote with concern regarding setbacks provided for the Oak Park 2 townhome site plan.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was forwarded earlier today. Are there any in-person petitions for this evening?
Yes, we've got two. The first is Jean Gresco of 120 North Fairfax Street.
All right, welcome, Mr. Gresco.
Hi, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I'm Gene Gresco and I live on North Fairfax Street. I'm also on the BZA, but these comments are strictly my own. I read the draft annual planning report, specifically noting the accomplishment to permit accessory dwellings. A good job by the Planning Commission and staff to bring that about. The staff reports that led to that new regulation indicated that there were 31 existing structures in the city that seemed to be ADs, although not necessarily meeting the specifications under the new code. The new code provides a special use permit process to grandfather in continued occupancy of those 31. However, I've yet to see any of those brought forward for review. Who is forcing compliance? Even though I can't stay for today's meeting, I would like to hear some discussion of this matter when watching the video replay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gresco.
Thank you. And the other slip I have is Paul Baldino.
Great.
Of 103
welcome,
Nolan.
Mr. Baldino.
I'm here to make some comments on the Safer Than Stop presentation that you'll hear later this evening. I and Dave Gustafson are the city's two representatives on the board of directors of Noble Farms. First, I'd like to say, speaking for Dave too, I think we have a lot of respect for what Andrew Olson has done to raise the profile of cycling in the city. And he's the author of the item that you will hear. Andrew provided a copy of the presentation to Dave and me before the holidays with a request that it not be shared with anyone before this presentation to the Planning Commission. This material has not been seen by the Noble Park staff, and they've had no opportunity to comment. A few observations. It's clear that Andrew has put a great deal of time and effort into this proposal. It includes a number of claims that need to be confirmed and some that could reasonably be interpreted in different ways. It needs a review by professional staff with expertise in traffic engineering and trail design. As you know, Noble Parks owns the land and maintains the entire WIA. While Falls Church is the center of the universe for me and many of you, the Falls Church segment of the WNOD is only 1.5 miles on a 47-mile trail. In fact, the city is a founding member of Noble Parks, as well as by bar. In fact, we contribute less than 1% of the member jurisdiction's annual contributions. In addition to Falls Church, the WNOD passes through Arlington, Fairfax, and Loudoun counties, and the towns of Vienna, Preston, Herndon, Leesburg, Hamilton, and Princeton. It serves places as varied as Arlington and Green Valley, farms in Loudoun, and the suburbs in Eugene. Because of the diversity of settings and users, and the many people who cross jurisdictions on the trail each day, Nova Parks has preferred conventional and consistent signage along the entire WNOD. I would encourage the Commission to take no position on the proposal you'll hear this evening, and if Andrew concurs, I'll send it to the Nova Parks staff for analysis and evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baldino. Okay. Any other slips?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. So that brings us to our action items tonight, and the first item is the selection of officers. Let's see. Is this something you're going to walk us through? Mr. Trainer?
Sure, yeah, I can. So this is the annual part of the year. The Planning Commission selects its chair and vice chair, which is done so in the procedure that's outlined in the rules of procedure that was included as an attachment to this report. But essentially, any commissioner can make a nomination for either position, and then a simple vote, roll call vote will happen on that nomination, and the simple majority is all that's needed to confirm that nomination. So that's the basic procedure. And as a reminder, any commissioner can serve consecutive one-year terms for either position. So I believe that, so yeah, I'll end it there. So if there's any questions.
2 years.
Yes, so each term is a maximum of each single term is 1 year, and any commissioner can serve 2 consecutive terms.
Okay. Great, thank you. So with that, I think I will call for nominations for chair. Mr. Stevens.
I'd like to nominate Andrea Comont to continue for another year as chair.
It's kind of you. Is there a second?
Second?
I think Mr. Duncan on the second. Are there other nominations for chair? Okay, so then do we do a roll call
Yep,
vote?
we'll do a vote, starting with Mr. Polinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Ms. Comont?
yes, Mr. Krasner,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Friedlander?
Yes.
Mr. Kravinsky?
Yes.
Ms. Colmont?
Yes.
Okay, thank you,
all.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all for your vote of confidence. Happy to do another year. We have one more position as well, the position of vice chair. Can I call for a nomination for vice chair?
Yeah, I'll nominate Mr. Stevens to continue as vice chair.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Polinsky. Is there a second? Mr. Kravinsky with the second. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Okay. I think we do a roll call vote.
Yep. Mr. Polinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Duncan?
Yes, Mr. Stevens?
Mr. Krasner?
Yes.
Ms. Friedlander?
Yes.
Mr. Kravinsky?
Yes.
Chair Comont?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you and congratulations.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Another year, y'all. So we've done selection of officers. Now, board and commission liaison assignments. Did everybody have a chance to review these? Sort of. Any changes that anybody would like to make on these assignments? Mr. Stevens, you have quite a few. Are you still able to manage these?
Yeah, although in all honesty, I have not attended the Arts and Humanities Council, so.
That's a tough one because it's 9:30, right? Or,
Well, anyway, if there's somebody who would like that, and I'm open for, if anybody has a particular interest, it always helps, I think, to have our members kind of circulate through the different boards and commissions, so I'm
Yeah, It's tough.
But unless
Otherwise-
someone else has any of the ones that I have, I can continue on as they are.
Okay, I appreciate that. You're carrying a heavier load, I think, than the rest of us, so.
I will say, I mean, I'm the backup. Mr. Stevens is not, often asked me to be the backup at EDA, but I'm always,
Yeah.
if you ever do need someone to cover you, that's why I'm happy to continue to do that. And if you actually need me to do it, happy to do it.
Oh, you should definitely try it sometime.
Any other changes that anybody else would like to make?
Oh, one other thought occurred to me. I don't think the Economic Development Council, I'm not sure if that exists anymore.
I was wondering about that. Yeah,
That's right, yeah, I think we had struck that.
the EDC. They just got better.
That's right.
Only place my name shows up and now it's gone.
All right, do we need a motion to approve these assignments, or?
No, there's effective immediately.
Okay, so we
Just like
don't, there's
the-
no action.
Because the
Correct.
chair signs it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody's happy? All right, great. I think we can move on then. To our minutes from our December 3rd meeting. Was that really the last time that we met? December 3rd? Wow. Feels like a lifetime. Any changes on the minutes? Oh, and I see Mr. Art has joined us.
Yes, thank you, Chair. One comment I want to make sort of related to assignments. As you might have guessed, subject to Monday's vote, there's been a change on the council liaison to the Planning Commission. I will be taking on that assignment.
Excellent.
So-
Welcome. Thank you. We're really happy.
And I want to congratulate Ms. Kamen and Mr. Stevens on their reappointment to their positions.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. Happy to have you with us. Okay, I think we were on the minutes.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the minutes as presented.
Okay, I had no
December
changes.
3rd, unless others have something.
Is there a second?
I can second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that brings us to our work session. And the first item for tonight is the Lee Park 2 subdivision plats.
And if I could introduce this one briefly before handing things over to Henry Zhang. So this is going to be our second site plan review under the new provisions dictated by the state. And what we're going to try to accomplish is, again, conduct an advisory review, get as much feedback as we can, and a slight update and twist from the last and first site plan that we reviewed under these provisions. We want to make sure that we leave tonight with formal comments from the commission that we can then share with everyone else, begin to address, but make sure that we don't leave tonight's meeting without those. So following a brief conversation, when you all feel like you're ready for those formal comments, we have staff ready on standby, and we'll kind of work with you to kind of type those up and make sure they're in good order before we move on to the other agenda items.
So as opposed to the taking them away, summarizing them in an email, and then getting them sent, we're going to do that all tonight.
In the interest of time, and I think to make sure that all our memories are fresh and we're not going back in time, so.
Got it? All right.
So can I, just to clarify, the subdivision we see tonight, and then it comes back as an action item?
Correct.
And then, but this is the only time we're going to see the site plan?
That's right.
Okay.
So with that, I will hand it over to Henry.
Welcome, Mr. Zhang. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Matusik. Good evening, Madam Chair. Congratulations. Vice Chair, Mr. Stephen, congratulations. Happy New Year to everybody. I'm going to just follow the staff report in the backup. Line 6. The Planning Commission is requested to hold work session to review a subdivision application. Basically, this application is to consolidate 3 existing lots and re-subdivide it into 15 single-family lots. The applicant is Lee Park LLC with Madison Home as a contract purchaser, and also will be a builder, future builder for this project. This site, basically 3 individual parcels. owned by CDR Holding LLC, which owns 701 Park Avenue. And then Sweeney Enterprise LLC owned the other two, 703 and 705. The site is approximately 0.7 acres, approximately 31,071 square feet. It's located in the southwest quadrant. Jack, can you pull out the subdivision? Southwest quadrant of the intersection of Park Avenue and the North Lee Street. On the north side of the Kensington Building and the east side of the parking garage of Hilton Garden Inn of Falls Church. The subdivision application has been reviewed for conformance with Chapter 38 subdivision regulation and Chapter 48 zoning ordinance, as well as comp plan and small area plan. DRC staff also review with limited comments on missing information such as graphic scale and the line and the curvature table. Two public meeting signs were posted on the side along the frontage of North Lee Street and Park Avenue on December 31st, 2025. This application was received on December 10, 2025. The 40-day, I'm sorry, this subdivision has a 60 days review limit. Staff recommend that Planning Commission provide input and guidance on the subdivision application and schedule it for final consideration on February 4th, 2026. This concludes staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zhang. Does the applicant, there's no statement from the applicant tonight, right?
Well,
on
they
this?
were going to talk about the site
The
plan.
site plan, but not the subdivision.
You-
okay.
You want to talk about the subdivision?
I have a presentation to give, but it more relates to
The site plan, yeah. Yeah, correct. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so then I think I can open it up to any questions or comments from the commission.
Save it for the site plan.
Okay.
Site plan drives the subdivision.
All right, so this will come back to us as an action item. So if there are no questions or comments tonight, this is our opportunity to raise any issues at this point. No? Okay. I also have no questions at this point. So I think then we can move on to the site plan, which is the next item on the agenda.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'll be brief so I can turn it over to Mr. Rosenberger for an applicant presentation. As Mr. Zhang had mentioned, the first submission for Lee Park's application, including the preliminary plat, final plat, and the site plan were received by staff and sent out for development review comment on December 9th, 2025. DRC reviewers met with the applicant on December 15th for additional discussion. Comments from DPW, planning, building safety, and AAB were received and are currently under review by the applicant. We plan to return to February 4th for public hearing regarding the final plat. However, the site plan portion of the application will receive a final action from the designated agent on January 19th. And in regards to what we had said before, we'll have Mr. Trainer be able to capture all Planning Commission comments and forward to the designated agent after the presentation. I can turn it over.
Great, welcome.
Great. Good evening. Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, my name is Andrew Rosenberger. I am with Madison Homes. We really are an affiliate of Madison Homes, MS Lee Park 2. LLC is the contract purchaser of this property, and my goal here tonight is just to provide you an overview and solicit your feedback and obtain your comments on this property. So I'm going to give a short overview. If we can jump to the next slide, and we'll just get right into it. Oh, I have it. I have control today. I didn't have control. No, maybe I have control.
Maybe not.
Do I need, is this thing on? I don't know how to tell. Is it because it's a PDF?
Does work during,
Dress rehearsal was great. Yeah, that works. Okay. All right, I'm in the driver's seat now. So the project is 31,000, just over 31,000 square feet. It is zoned T1. You can see the proposed site plan on the right, just to orient you. That's Park Avenue in the top, North Lee Street on the right. To the bottom, off the page would be parallel to Park Avenue, would be West Broad Street, of course. Where the Compass Rose is, that would be Lee Park 1. So this is, as most of you know, this is our third site plan application in the T-zone along Park Avenue. Lee Oak Park, which is to the left off the page on the other side of the Hilton Garden Inn garage, was approved in 2024, I believe, and then Lee Park 1, directly across the street from this property, was approved last year. So the density here is 21 units per acre. It's 15 units. It's 5 units less than Lee Park 1 for reasons that I'll get into shortly. The height limit is 45 feet, which we are adhering to. There is a 10-foot step back required on the upper level. That's only required along Park Avenue on these units here. As you'll see in some of our elevations, we're providing that in other locations as well. The parking is 1.4 spaces per unit, which is in excess of the 1.0 per unit required for parking. We're complying with all the setbacks. We're not requesting any variances or waivers. This is a true by right plan. And looking at the site plan, there are some things that I do want to point out, some kind of design drivers and design constraints. If you're familiar with Lee Park 1, this looks very similar. They both have 6 units fronting onto Park Avenue. This, as I said, is 15 units instead of 20 units, even though this property is actually slightly larger. And I'll get into that in just a second. The other item I did want to point out is that some of the setbacks here are actually larger than both Oak Park and Lee Park 1 along both Park Avenue and Lee Street. There is a private covenant that was recorded a long time ago that does require the fronts of the units to be set back further than is allowed by the zoning. And so we are adhering to that. So it moves the units back about 6 feet or 5 or 6 feet from where they otherwise could be if that covenant did not exist. The other really driver for the design has to do with an overland relief issue. So this is the Hilton Garden Inn right here. Right here in Park Avenue, there's a very large storm inlet. It doesn't look large unless you're underground, but there's a large pipe coming down, draining approximately 75 acres that converges here. It makes a right turn and then comes down here. In a very large storm event, that can get overwhelmed, and the water would come out onto the street and would flow over the curb. And what it's designed to do is to flow through the Hilton Garden Inn garage and onto this property now and out toward Lee Street. I think in the 2019 storm, I don't believe that there was any water, and that was a very big storm. But for the 100-year storm, that would be the case. And so our objective was to really create this open space on both sides to facilitate that water from the overland relief, to allow it to basically find a path to North Lee Street. And our objective in designing this property was that we could not raise the water surface elevation on any adjacent properties. And we have hired Kimley Horn, who has a substantial contract with the city, I believe, and they've developed a massive model kind of showing what happens in a 100-year storm event for this entire watershed. And we worked with them at our own cost to confirm that that there is no adverse impact on any of the adjacent properties. There is a memo that's attached to the site plan. It gets pretty technical. I'm not going to get into too much detail here tonight, but I do want to point that out because it does have a very substantial impact on our design for this property. And so what we have done is that there's actually a retaining wall right here and right here that will raise the site up and allow that water to flow around that retaining wall and out toward Lee Street. So the retaining wall is a max of 3.5 to 4 feet. So it's not a massive retaining wall in terms of height, but it does raise the units up out of that that overland relief path. So moving to the next slide, these are existing conditions, very recent. These were taken this morning on a beautiful January day. The two at the bottom show the frontage along Park Avenue. The current improvements are, they were originally built as 3 houses. Right now, there's 2 businesses occupying those 3 houses. The photos at the top are taken from across Lee Street, looking down onto the property. You can see the 3 houses on the right there, and then there is parking in the rear. The parking serves those commercial businesses, as well as there's some parking from the Kensington, which is just short-term leasing spaces. I want to go through the architecture. I'm not going to go into great detail on the architecture, but I do want to point out some things. The design intent here, there's a reason this looks familiar, because it's very similar to what we're doing at Lee Park 1. That was a conscious decision on our part. We did talk about whether or not we wanted to do something, a different style, but we felt that for a cohesive look, it was important to maintain a consistent look with what is across the street, directly across the street on Lee Street, at Lee Park 1. The names get confusing, I realize that. But you can see this is traditional in style. It's mostly masonry. There are bays that break up the mass. There is some articulation in this building, which is hard to see in this elevation, but there is some back and forth. These are 20-foot wide units, so very similar to Lee Park 1. There are 6 units there. There are 6 units here. As you can see, these are 2-car garage units. So these 6 units will have elevators. So they will have a 0-step entry from the sidewalk on Park Avenue and 2-car garages. These are the largest units in the site. You can see the masonry carries around on the sides, as well as on the rears of the end units and at the lower level of all the units. And there are decks in the rear. And one thing I do want to point out, and we did this at our other 2 projects, this is a utility shed which will house all of the electric meters for all 6 units in this building. What that really does is free up. As you can see, there's no meters on the back of our units, and all the condensers are on the roof. You can see the screening there. Plus, these units are all electric, so there's no gas, so there's no gas meters. And so as I scroll through these, you'll be able to see those utility sheds on each building. And in fact, that's something that we also have on both Oak Park and Lee Park 1 as well. This is the Lee Street building. There is a very small change in this from our original submission that's reflected here on the left. And that's based upon input that we received from the AAB. This is the first time you've seen this. It will be in the next submission. The changes are really, it's just these little panels here and these two bays. There was a line down the middle, or it was two panels and now it's a single panel. Very minor changes. And you can also see, this is the Lee Street building. There is a step back similar to what we're doing across the street and similar to what we're doing on Park Avenue. These units are 14 feet wide. This is a 14-foot wide unit, and this is a 16-foot wide unit. Similar sizes to what we have at Lee Park 1. The other change that was recommended by the AAB related to this unit right here, Lot 8, and specifically this panel in here. It was proposed to be brick. We decided to keep that as siding. Really, it creates a look. It's differentiation among the units. It's also something that we're carrying over from across the street. So it is, while the colors may be different, it's a style that we are copying from Lee Park 1 directly across the street. This just shows the ends of the units. Again, you can see the step back, and again, we're carrying the brick on the sides and along the rear. And then this building is we'll call it the alley building. These units are unique in that both the garages and the front doors are into the alley. So that goes back to what I was discussing before with regards to eliminating the clutter in the alley. We want the alleys to be as attractive as possible because they in fact serve as front doors for certain of our units. And as well, it's a shared space. By default, it becomes a shared space for pedestrians and automobiles. And we want to make sure that pedestrians feel safe and comfortable walking in the alley and accessing their units. We did make, as you can see, some minor changes on this one as well. It was discussed with the AAB. It wasn't specifically a recommendation. But basically, we flipped units 13 and 12, which really has the effect of combining these. If you can see, there's two penthouses up here, and there's a single, what looks like a single penthouse. It's still two penthouses, one serving each unit. And these are obviously three-level units. They will have their stairs up to the roof, and they will be able to have there will be exterior space on the roof, but there is no living space on the fourth level, unlike the other units on the project. Again, this is just the rears and the sides. There's really no difference other than some of the colors have changed from what you've seen before. The streetscape, there were several comments from staff about the streetscape and consistency with the adopted streetscape standards for the city, which were just revised earlier or in 2025. So what we're showing here, I've blown up the Park Avenue streetscape from our colored site plan. And as well, the photos on the bottom are the actual streetscape. These photos are again from today of what we're doing at Oak Park, just on the other side of the Hilton Garden Inn parking garage. So we're copying the streetscape almost exactly, to what we're doing there, and that streetscape then picks up again at Lee Park 1. So you can see it's panelized concrete, and then there are tree pits along here. Otherwise, there are panels that are going to the back of the curb. It's a 6-foot sidewalk there. It'll be a 6-foot sidewalk in front of Lee Park 2 as well. There is one change, and that is, you can see up here, we have tree pits, but we don't have trees in them. We have shrubs. There is a very large and shallow stormwater main running directly underneath that. It's about 18 inches below the surface. So not deep enough to support a tree being planted on top of that. So and that being the case, we just moved the street trees, instead of being in these tree pits, as you see here at Oak Park, we moved them directly behind the sidewalk. So that is our streetscape, and that is, I did have one more slide. This just puts everything in context. This is Oak Park here, which is substantially complete. This is the proposed property, Lee Park 2 right here, and Lee Park 1, which is under construction actively right now. This just shows everything in context. You can see kind of the streetscape that we're presenting along Park Avenue, which I think when all of this is done, it will be a very attractive streetscape, and then continuing really along Lee Street with units fronting on both sides, I think will be a very attractive addition to the neighborhood. I have other slides. I wasn't planning on presenting them, but if you have questions, I may be able to, a picture is sometimes worth 1,000 words, as we all know. I can refer to those. I can refer back to anything. If you have specific questions or comments, I welcome them.
Great. Thank you so much. Any clarifying questions to start? Or would anybody like to start in with comments? Mr. Polinsky?
I had one question about the streetscaping on the Park Avenue side. Is there any lighting? You had mentioned the trees. It looked like there were lights that, light poles.
There
are intended to be there.
There will be lights, street lights. You can see on Oak Park that we have a street light there. You can see the post right here in the foreground.
So the
right
intention
there.
is to.
You're right. It doesn't show on the landscape plan, so it didn't pick up on this rendering. It should show on the site plan, but there will be. These are Dominion Virginia Power prescribed.
The standard matching the city. Okay.
Yes.
And the second question, lighting in the alleyways.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any currently lighting attached to the building, or would be attached to the building?
There
to light
is
that?
lighting attached to both the backs of the units that are fronting onto Lee Street, as well as lighting that is attached to the front of the 4 alley units. That lighting will be on photocell so that it will come on automatically.
Okay. But it's not motion censored lighting.
It's not motion censored.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Correct.
And then
And there's no, it's all of the lighting is attached to the units. There's no independent lights in the alley.
okay. And then you had mentioned that the building is electric.
Yes.
All electric.
All
Is there any solar cell, solar power?
They will be solar ready. So what we've did at Lee Park and Oak Park is basically provide a conduit from the electric panel to the roof such that once these units are settled, and if someone is interested in the future in doing that, it's substantially easier to have those installed than otherwise would be.
Okay. I'm sorry, one more clarifying question. You mentioned there were the elevators you mentioned, are those in each unit, or is that only in the end units?
It is in these, each of these units has its own individual private elevator. Just
Okay.
just these 6
The
units.
ones on Lee Street, Park Avenue, sorry.
Yes, just the ones on Park Avenue. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Stevens?
Yeah, just a couple of questions, just to pick up on the point on the pre-wiring for the photovoltaic. Is there also pre-wiring for an electric charger in the garages?
Yes.
For owners, should they want to put one of those
Yes.
in? Okay,
Yes,
so
there
that's kind of plug and play at this point.
Exactly, yeah. We've had a lot of discussions in terms of what that entails, but basically there's wiring. First of all, there needs to be enough capacity
In the circuit box.
in the service.
Right.
And then there is essentially an outlet. It's, I guess, what is it? I don't know all of the numbers, but it's not
Level
just,
2.
it's not a 120, it's a 240.
240, it's level
And then
2, right.
with that, there may still be some customization required or some electrician involved, for example, to actually connect a physical charger
Yeah.
to service different cars.
Right.
But yes, they are car charger ready.
Okay. The only other question I had was screens for the rooftop condensers. I wasn't quite sure. Maybe you could show me those again. What type of a? You could
So
describe
they
it?
show here, at least in here on these two buildings, you can see up here, though they're essentially wood screens. It's essentially a small fence around the condenser units.
Okay.
And if you look right now at Oak Park, the same screens are actually in place, and you can see what they actually look like.
Okay.
They don't exist down here because basically the condensers are behind the parapet, as opposed to being on top here, so that they can't be seen from the street under any circumstances.
That's all the questions I had. I got some other comments, but
Okay, great. Any other questions, clarifying questions?
I have some questions. I don't know how you want to do this. You want to comments or questions?
Yeah, wait, you
Well,
can
I
go
mean, just
ahead.
some questions. I mean, questions about, the width of the alley. I mean, this one, how does this compare to the other projects, as far as those alley widths?
It's the same.
Okay. I mean, I guess the concern is, and we know we're going to have, none of these are online yet. I know you've been selling in some of them, but, I've always been concerned about, again, the nature of those back units, but even something as simple as, deliveries, you have the backs, you're going to have kind of garages facing garages, in that alley on this one, which I guess is a little bit different. Is there room for, I'm just trying to picture like large deliveries, small deliveries, Amazon, the Postal Service, UPS, are they going to be idling out on Park and Lee and using hand truck to get stuff in there? Because otherwise it seems like there's not a lot of space in there. You start getting people's cars, as we all know, a lot of times people fill up the garage with stuff, or these garages are kind of tight. People have larger cars, they may wind up leaving them in the back. I guess I foresee a lot of chaos in the alleys. And we don't have really any experience yet because they're not online. And so, I was concerned about the other ones for the same reason, that the garages are tight, and people's cars being what they are. I foresee those maybe not being used as garages, a lot of them being used as storage units. And so I envision a lot of chaos as far as vehicles in these few blocks. So anyhow, that's my concern. I think in the last one you showed us some auto turns and showed us that, in theory, cars can make certain movements and get in and out, but I don't know. So did you look at deliveries and how, these units, especially those in the back, would be accessed by, we all get so many deliveries these days. So, did you look at that?
We didn't specifically look at a delivery van, but we did look at a fire truck, which is substantially larger than a delivery van. And this alley is specifically designed to accommodate a fire truck pulling in to
Right. Well, the fire truck would
call
block
it the bottom of the
block
T
it in an
here.
emergency. I'm talking about like what it means for the, if one person gets a delivery, does that block the whole alley for the other?
I guess I can't
handful
say
of units?
what each individual delivery man will do.
Even a moving
they
truck,
May,
when
they
people
may
move
pull
in.
up at some point just on Lee Street and walk back.
Yeah.
Alternatively, they could certainly pull in. We're talking, in this part of the alley, there are 9 units. There's not a lot of traffic back in there.
I'm not concerned about traffic as much as I'm concerned about just, again, the narrowness of it. And how they, those folks, especially in the back, are really stuck back there. I've said it before, it's a by right project. I think we should rename the T-zones, the townhouse zones. Now there's a third one in 3 blocks. So any pretense anyone on this commission or anywhere in the city had that the T-zones might yield another type of use other than townhouses, I hope they've been disabused of that notion given the current economic climate in the market in Northern Virginia, so that we know when we make townhouses by right, we should 100% expect that the next day we will get proposals for them. So, and what that means when we do it by right and we have this type of density again, and what it looks like, when you're hemming in. Now this one, as you said, it's a little bit bigger. You have a little more room around the edges than the other ones. As far as backing up to the garage, which is good. I apologize. I'm having trouble loading like some of the sheets on my laptop. Can you go to the landscape plan of the site plan? Because again, I was concerned on the other side of the garage, again, about the treatment between, those units and how they back up to the parking garage, which to me is the most, concerning transition.
Very close to the end.
Those units really are in a tough situation. I'd love to know how those units on the other side have been selling. I'm sure they have sold, but So I wanted to see, I know I want to see what type of vegetative treatment, can be done there, since you have extra width to help, maybe provide a bit of a green screen for those folks out their back window, as opposed to the, the concrete of the parking garage.
Yeah, there is plantings in there, both trees as well as lower level shrubs. It's a big file. I know it's
I've been having
hard to
trouble
load.
loading it off the city's, I downloaded it from the city's page, but I'm just having trouble loading it.
But even if you were to go back to our slide and go to just the colored site plan, you can see that there are trees.
No, I know. Well, that's the rendering, and that's good. I just wanted to see.
Yeah,
it on
and
the
that's based
plan.
upon the actual landscape plan.
Yeah. I guess the other concern, I'm kind of doing a little stream of consciousness here, is, I get your idea about keeping it, consistent with the architecture across the street. I can see that point of view. I guess the other concern I have is just, again, now it's the third project in 3 blocks, and sort of a sameness that we're having, in this short, stretch of park. There's going to be a real sameness to the units, the same architecture built at the same time. Again, sort of kind of takes away from sort of the organic nature, that maybe gives Falls Church some of its identity. I don't know if there's, I get the design decision, and to keep it the same. I wonder if the ARB, tried to kind of push that at all, as far as the changes. You mentioned a few changes they made or recommended. Did they bring up any comments about maybe varying the architecture more significantly from your other projects?
No, most of the comments were, I don't want to say minor design critiques, but not focused on the overall theme. There were certainly comments from some of the members about the general design, but most, as you can read in the memo, the comments were rather getting into the details of some of the architectural elements.
Okay.
I just want to jump in here. I also attended that AAB meeting, so I will tell you that the consensus from the AAB was, because this is essentially across the street from the earlier part of the same complex, it really would be a problem to vary it up. Although there was a lot of concern about that with the AAB. It's just that this is essentially going to be, once it's all built, this is going to be the same complex on 2 sides of the street.
Right.
So they definitely had shared your concern.
Right, like I said, I get it. There's an efficiency from the applicant's point of view as far as not having to pay an architect to redesign stuff. But again, part of what makes the city interesting, any city interesting really, is, when things develop organically over time, different builders, different styles. And there's nothing wrong with the same builder, doing multiple projects in the city. That happens all the time. But yeah, it's just something that I think when it's all done, I think, everyone will know that these were sort of coordinated. There's pros and cons to that, I guess. It's a design choice. That's probably not my main concern, but anyhow, all right, I'll let other folks go. Thank you.
Mr. Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have about half a dozen things that I've jotted down here, and that's more than I'm entitled to. So let me form 3 in the style of a question, and maybe I'll save the other 3 for a little bit later. First, thank you for bringing this proposal and the earlier ones before us, and thank you for helping us navigate this new process that we're learning our way through. One question that arose in my mind when I'm listening to you talk about the stormwater runoff treatment is this, without that sort of extra effort that you're taking to manage the stormwater, would this be a buildable property? What else could go here if, not this, with the kind of treatment that you're giving to stormwater? And is there any precedent in other developments that you've done for handling stormwater with this sort of retaining wall and underground approach?
So let me go. This shows it best. Lee Park 1 was just under 30,000 square feet. Lee Park 2 is just over 31,000 square feet. It's a little bit bigger, very little. If we didn't have this stormwater issue, we would, I don't see any, we could certainly do, whether or not we would, we certainly could do exactly what we did at Lee Park 1. Your other question is whether or not we've seen this before. It is a very unique set of circumstances. We've certainly done retaining walls quite a bit. We've never quite encountered the issue where we've had off-site stormwater really from which coming from a public street onto one property and then onto our property. And there's no easement on either of those properties, on this property or the Hilton Garden Inn. It was noted on the site plan. And in fact, when that was built, I want to say around, I think the site plan was approved about 2015. That was built specifically to accommodate the overland relief through the garage. I believe it was redesigned. I'm not familiar with all the details, but the lower level of that parking deck was deliberately left open and at the same grade that it was before, specifically to accommodate this overland relief issue from Park Avenue through the garage and then spilling onto this property.
Okay, I think just as you present this product to the community, I think anything that you can convey to the broader community and obviously to buyers that this is we acknowledge this is a somewhat special situation, and you're trying to address it with some measures that are above and beyond maybe what we have done in past years when we were less conscious of.
Yes, we've focused a tremendous amount of resources on, first of all, understanding the issue, and second of all, doing whatever we can to address it in a way that specifically has no adverse impact on any of the adjoining properties, specifically the Kensington and the Hilton Garden Inn.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. All right, second question. I'll try to collapse this into one. Alleys and the sort of community management approach that this property will take when it's fully stabilized. Is it your expectation that there will be some sort of HOA that will include all the owners of the individual parcels who will have a process for dealing with issues that inevitably arise when people are living close together? I mean, I have a single family lot, but we got dogs next door and the kids' soccer ball coming over the fence from the other side, and everybody's got issues. Issues are just part of living in a dense area. Is there, in your expectation,
there will absolutely be an HOA here. There is an HOA at Oak Park, and there's a separate HOA at Lee Park 1. There will be an HOA here, and it will, among other things, it will deal with conflicts as you raise them. As at the other two projects, this will also be private trash. So the HOA will manage that. There's no municipal trash service here. There's bioretention boxes similar to what we had at both of the other projects. Not all of the units have them here, which is a little bit different, but those will also be maintained by the HOA as well as the common grounds, the alleys, for example.
Okay.
The units themselves will be maintained. That's the responsibility of the homeowners, but all of the common area is HOA responsibility.
Okay,
yes.
Good. I mean, obviously, in terms of public safety investment, we'd rather not have to send the police out to, cover issues between neighbors who both want to leave their garage at the same time and aren't good at taking turns or whatever. Piggybacking on to alleys, can you cite any examples in the nearby area of a development like this, which has alleys of this sort of approach? I'm thinking of the one on Langston Boulevard, just past Harrison Street, past to the east of Harrison Street, which has been there for many, many years. Is that an example? If you're familiar with
I know
that
exactly
one?
what property, what community you're talking about. I don't know whether I've ever been in the alley of that community.
Yeah, I've just driven by
I do
it,
know, I mean, we've done townhouses all over with alleys, some of which are tighter than this. This is, I think, a minimum of 30 and a half feet between the buildings on the alley. I think we've gone as low as 28. We've done that in Old Town Alexandria. In Ballston, if you know where the Total Wine is, right at Wilson and Glebe, right behind that, there was 28 townhomes that we built it was about 10 years ago. The layout doesn't match this exactly, but there is an example there of back 2 units double loaded on an alley. I don't recall the exact dimensions, but it was probably just as tight as this, or similar dimensions anyway. We haven't had any complaints.
This is not without some precedent in
Absolutely.
in the nearby neighborhood. Okay. All right. Let me ask 2 more and into one if I can. You mentioned on parking that some of the current space on the parcel is used for overflow parking for Kensington, I think you said.
Yes.
Usually when a new residential building goes in, there's considerable concern in the neighborhood about parking, particularly if there are employee situations. What's your expectation when that Kensington overflow space is no longer provided by you all?
So originally,
where that traffic's going?
I don't know exactly how many spaces there are. Originally, those spaces were located where Lee Park 1 is being built. And then they moved here on a short-term basis. I think it's approximately 10 spaces. It's not actually overflow parking, is my understanding. Again, I'm not leasing those spaces, so I don't know. But it's my understanding that they have shifts, and those shifts overlap by approximately, let's say, a half hour. And so you have one group coming in before the other group leaves, and they have enough parking to accommodate shift, but it's that one half, call it that half hour overlap that creates the problem. So they're on a month to month. We've had communications with the Kensington. They know exactly what's going on. They are looking for alternative solutions, is the best I can say.
Okay, all right. Well, there's a transportation demand management plan for the Kensington, which we ought to pick up and dust off and, acknowledge that probably it has some gaps in it. And, again, this is a new process that we're going through here. And so I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time and place to raise it, but somebody in planning land needs to keep their mind about that, because that will be a neighborhood concern. And finally, and related to parking, so the townhouses Long Park each have 2-car garages, and then the others each have 1-car garage.
Each have 1 car, that's right.
Okay, and the price tag that you expect, the price range that you expect these different style units will command is what? What are you looking at? If you had to sell it today in today's dollars, what would you put it up
So we're
for?
selling similar units across the street. For the elevator unit, we have a unit on the market at, I believe the price is $1,799,000 for an elevator unit. Same size, same 2-car garage, same unit essentially.
How many bedrooms and baths?
That is 3 bedrooms. I believe it is 3.5 baths.
As far as you know, and I'm sure you're keenly aware of the market here, is there any other new construction that offers 3 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, and a 2-car garage in the city of Falls Church that costs $1.8 million?
I am not keenly aware of, I can't say that it doesn't exist, but I'm not aware, other than what we're building across the street, I'm not aware of any specific, I know there are some, maybe just a couple of very expensive penthouse units in the Oak. I don't know what their parking, I believe that at least those penthouse units have two-car parking space, 2 cars. But I don't know all the details of
Okay,
that
well, the
particular
reason I
unit.
didn't expect you to have to be an expert on all.
Yeah, and just by way of background, our experience, so we have 6 at Lee Park 1, and we've sold 5 of them.
That was my other question.
We haven't settled anything there, of course. But, you know, all of our buyers are, some of them live in Falls Church, some of them have family that live in Falls Church, but just about all of them will be occupied by 2 persons. And that is generally a move-down buyer who specifically wants to be in an area where they can walk to the farmer's market, to the grocery store, to restaurants, et cetera, and have the convenience of an elevator. Whether or not they need it now, they may need it now, or they simply are looking a few years in ahead, thinking that they will want it or need it in the near future.
Okay. All right, that's enough for me. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Ms. Friedlander.
Thank you. So just generally speaking, I have gone back and forth whether or not I'm excited that it's mirroring kind of the style. But overall, when I start to look at the site plan, these are very short chunks. They're not a full block that's a huge expanse. So I'm actually okay with the fact that they are kind of speaking to each other across Lee Street and along Park, because it gives like a kind of consistency along that sidewalk that I think right now we don't have. So I'm actually, I think that's a fine approach. And so I appreciate that you've picked up a lot of the AAB comments. They are actually attached to the staff comments. They're at the very last page, and it depends what viewer you're using, whether or not it's going to format right on your computer, but they are there. So it was very hard to open, so it's possible that some people weren't able to read it. But I was able to read it on this laptop, but not on my work laptop. But I do have just a quick question. You had mentioned that the HOA is maintaining a lot of the common areas.
Yes.
So that would also include the landscaping that fronts the sidewalk and all
Yes.
of that. So,
Yes,
okay,
it would.
good. Because my only concern was like the blank wall that you're looking at the side. I think it's Unit 6 that faces Lee Street.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at the corner. But since I think it's red twig dogwoods or something are there, and they're kind of higher. So I just wanted to make sure that there is somebody maintaining that.
Yes,
so that,
absolutely.
you know, they don't die and then we're just looking at a brick wall. And then I did have a question about the signage for the, you know, like the addresses for the units that are in the alleyway.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to visit a friend, how do I know where that address is? So what are the ideas around signage? I'm assuming it will be somewhere on Lee Street at the driveway, but is it like a monument, or is it?
This is the largest one that I have. So, right there's it looks like the outline of a square. That's to be a pillar, and that will hold signage saying, you know, 709 through 714 Lee Street, this way.
That way, right.
And then additionally, you can see here, there's actually within the alley.
Oh, it's like a sidewalk.
Well, it looks like a
stamp.
sidewalk, and then it comes down here. This
Okay.
actually shows that as an outline. It will actually be solid paver, not simply outlined.
Yeah. Okay.
So that will really create the sense of, you know, this is shared space. This is pedestrian friendly. That's a signal both to pedestrians and to drivers as well.
Okay. All right, and is the driveway, is that permeable, or is that,
It is not permeable. No,
And that's-
the main surface of the alley is asphalt.
just to funnel it down to back down to Lee Street? Is that,
Yeah, I think it goes two ways. I believe the top of the T drains out here, and then the bottom of the T drains down here.
okay, all right.
I'm pretty sure when I say that, that's right. I can look it up if you'd like, but
No, there's a lot of comments there from Stormwater
Yes,
and
there are a
from
lot, yes.
DPW, so
And we're
I'm
working to
comfortable,
address
like
those
they're
right
on
now.
it, so, yeah, I think we're in good shape, so. And then I just had a couple of just general observations, mainly for staff. In the staff review comments, there were there were some conflicting comments or even questions that seemed internal, but it looks like it went to the applicant. So who is having the final say? Stuff like there were questions about which streetscape are we supposed to be using? And I was just confused by reading through those and going, well, who's telling the applicant what what requirements they need to be meeting? Like, who's the final say? Is that the designated agent, or is that?
So we have several staff that are fulfilling that role. I think where we find ourselves now is that in the interest of time and making sure everyone is able to very quickly address the comments, what it's forcing is subsequent conversations and coordination to resolve any potential conflicts as we kind of make the best use of our time.
Okay.
Had we not had to operate within that 40-day window, usually there are internal and external coordination meetings to resolve those things, kind of refine some of the comments before they're sent back. But a lot of that eats into the 40-day window.
Yeah.
It's kind of manufacturing an urgency that shouldn't exist in this process. Because at the end of the day, in order to reconcile the comments, you're simply just adding time at the end. So as you'll see with this and other projects, the likelihood of something actually being approved in the 40-day window is very low because of those type of challenges that naturally exist in the process right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys want to add anything else, Cameron?
Just for that specific question for the streetscape, this previous last May 2025, there was the update to the streetscape standards. So I think that comment is probably addressing specifically that to make sure that they're using the most recent standard with the soldier course brick binding and to have more concrete than a full brick sidewalk.
Which makes sense in this scenario, because you are kind of, if you're walking down the sidewalk from Lee Park 1 to Lee Park 2.
Correct.
But there is a comment in there that says sidewalks should be brick, period. And so I was like, well, how?
The most recent standard will be applied
Okay.
to the project.
Good stuff. All right. Thank you.
And just, we are in the process, our team is in the process of reaching out to city staff and
Okay.
as Matt said, setting up coordination meetings so that we can all get on the same page and understand what comments to address and how best to address them.
Okay, sweet. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Kravinsky, did you have any questions or comments?
No comments. Actually, my understanding is this is a by right, consistent with the code that we hashed out
That's correct.
2 years ago, with no waivers, no variances.
Correct.
So I think it sounds like Madison Homes did a pretty good job fulfilling what the vision was, the original vision of that year-long debate that we had about T-zones. So I commend you for that. And no other comments.
Comment, I'm sorry, just to go again.
Sure.
I finally got the landscape plan to load. It took me like a long time. Okay, I see that you're just proposing the only trees there are elms, deciduous trees. And I'm wondering, well, when you're adjacent to the parking garage, why not maybe some evergreen, something that would provide a year-round, a thicker screen for those units that, their rear deck is backing up to the parking garage, which is actually kind of a different scenario than on the other side of Oak or the other side of the parking garage where your other site is, or where they're kind of backing into the alley. In this case, their decks are kind of next to the parking garage. I mean, was there any thought to putting a denser screen? I mean, that would be my recommendation, to have something that, other than just a handful of the elms. There's nothing wrong with elm trees, but I think in that location, they're not going to do very much. I think a denser evergreen screen, there's room for it. I mean, you have that extra width there. And so was there any thought to that?
Yeah, it's certainly something that we can look into. I mean, certainly if you look at some of our other projects, there's actually a lot of space here between our units and the garage. It's
so like maybe
further
a double
than
row?
it is at Oak Park. I think probably maybe for both sides of that project.
Maybe you have room for a double row. I mean, you could just put something denser that, because I just, people.
Yeah, and the other thing that we need to keep in mind is that strip of land is there for a purpose, a primary purpose as well, which is to accommodate the overland relief in the event of an issue, in the event of a historic storm. So that's just kind of making sure that one doesn't conflict with the other.
Right. Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Stevens.
I've got some more, but did you want to go first?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay. If you can go back to that very last slide that you had.
This one?
Well, the last one. This is kind of earlier in your deck. It's one that shows the
This one? Okay.
And you showed the kind of that little park area next to the Kensington. Is there any more programming for that area? For example, a little trail, mini trail that could possibly go there. I know you mentioned the stormwater, and you're trying to make sure this fulfills.
We've received that comment. Well, actually, we've received a couple of comments. One is the proposal to put some sort of open space programming in there. We had another comment that said put an easement on it and you can't do anything with it in terms of actual programming. It's our intent actually to put a small bench up here next to Unit 6 as opposed to down here. There's actually some, it gets a little complicated with the grade right here. I don't think we want a path going through. I mean, the path can only really go from there to there. I think it would be our preference to keep people on the sidewalk.
I was thinking just the back.
That's not to say that this can't be used. It's not our intention that it become a community-wide dog park, but I would imagine if you're living in these units and you own a dog, you may find some use from that space.
I was thinking kind of a mini version of what's behind the Whole Foods, and what they've done back there. Obviously, there's not enough room there to do that here, but it's something to give some thought to that I think that would make that more useful to the residents there.
When you say behind the Whole Foods, on the
I think that's the link.
where the garage entrances are on that side?
Yes, on that side. Yeah.
Okay.
Behind it, like between Lawton and the houses behind it.
There's like a green strip back there, and there's like a little walking trail, and you can actually walk all around there, and it's rather nice.
I know I've been to the Whole Foods many times. I don't know. I can't envision what you're talking about.
And
but
try it at night because it's lit up back there. It's really quite attractive. So again, recognizing this is a much smaller scale, but it's just a thought that kind of enhance the location here. You mentioned a seating rack on the corner there at Lee and Park. That's good. Any thought of putting maybe a bicycle rack in the amenity zone along Park Avenue? And my thought on that is that since there is no off-street parking other than for the individual units, anybody visiting folks here is probably going to drive here unless at least there's an opportunity for some of them to ride a bike if they have a place to hook it up to. So I'd make that suggestion.
Yeah, we can certainly look into it. It's there. This shows it. It does get tight.
It gets tight, yeah.
In there.
Because what'll happen otherwise, people will just tie a bike up to a pole or something.
Yeah, I mean, certainly for our residents, I would expect them to keep the bikes in their garage.
Yes, for sure that. So this is more, I'm thinking visitors. Trying to keep visitors out of cars because it's going to make a very congested street that much more congested unless there's some alternatives. So I was just thinking if it's convenient to hook a bike up someplace, maybe that'll attract some bikes rather than cars. There were some comments at the AAB on the single hung windows, but I was just going to ask, you have single hung windows on this unit, right, on this project?
We have a mix of single hung windows and fixed casement windows as well.
Okay, well, it just struck me that the single hung is a bit more of a modern look to it, and I think they're more energy efficient than the double hung.
They are.
So that didn't come up in the AAB discussion, so I thought, I would just share that. There's some discussion of the parapet walls up at the top and what type of railing or whatever. I was just wondering if you could address that. Are these, can you step from one to another up on the roof there?
So looking at this unit in particular, if you look there, so you can see what's shown here is that there is a demising wall or a fence between
units,
the rooftop terraces of those units.
Yeah.
It does not show here. I mean, you could argue that it's there, but there would also be something here to
separate,
just to provide some privacy between the two. Similarly, I think we have that on the roof terraces, just our standard roof terraces between. It doesn't show here, but I believe there is some some demarcation between those two units.
I don't know if there's anything in our code that addresses that, but I presume staff will be looking at that to make sure whatever it is that's in your plans is compliant with our code. Last thing I had was on this letter from Ms. Hyman about the deed restriction. Yeah, I was a little confused on that. Her letter suggests that the deed restriction is 20 feet from the back of the property line.
That's correct.
And normally we measure it from back of the curb.
That's correct.
But you're saying that you'll meet the 20 feet from the property line.
We are meeting the more restrictive of the two, which in this case is the private covenant, which is 20 feet from the property line.
Okay. All right. That's all I had. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Great questions. I think most of the topics that I wanted to ask about were already addressed. So thank you for that. One note for you, Mr. Trainer, in the future, can we attach the AB comments separately from the rest? I missed those too.
You had to search for them.
Yeah, I think I got to the plans and thought that was the end. I would second Mr. Stevens' recommendation for some sort of like a small path for residents through that grassy area. It just seems like, particularly for those alley units, having another way to access your home that's not I'm sure the alley will be very nice, but like a little walking path would also, if I were living there, I would like to be able to kind of cut through that grassy area if I was coming from Broad and then off of Park, to get to my unit. So I had that same thought, and I would second that recommendation. I don't think I had any other comments. I'd also second his recommendation for the bike rack on Park. If you can squeeze it in, it would be used by visitors. Mr. Trainer, how are we proceeding in terms of gathering comments? Have you been taking notes?
Yep, I've been taking notes, and I think my colleagues Henry and Cameron also have been taking notes. So we've prepared under the new system for the Planning Commission to basically to capture the Planning Commission's discussion and recommendations to the designated agent. We've prepared a draft memo similar to the one that was circulated, capturing the discussion for the fellows property site plan, which the commission discussed at its last meeting. And so we've used the same basically intro language with a slight description of the property, and we'll fill in, the basic topics of the discussion, and then the most important part is including any additional or specific recommendations that the commission wants to make to the designated agent. And then we've also included the basically to formalize the language and make sure that the commission speaks with one voice on that language. We've provided a draft motion here approving those recommendations to be provided here. So I'll look to you, Madam Chair, perhaps as a place to start. If there are specific recommendations that the commission wants to make to the designated agent, they'll be captured in this memo.
Okay. So I think I heard 3 things, at least, and there may be more that I missed, but a denser screen for the alley units. That was from you, Mr. Krasner? The rear of the alley units?
I was just going to add on that, too. The vegetation that is along Park Avenue where the Hilton garage is evergreen. And it looks very nice now, I think, and, kind of shields the garage, because the purpose of that was to hide the garage that faces Park Avenue. So that may give some ideas on what could be done to have more permanent shading there.
Great. So that was one. And then second, the other 2 that I heard were the ones that we just mentioned, the resident path and a bike rack. Ms. Friedlander, did you have any requests? No. No, just comments, right? Okay. Were there any requests from any other planning commissioners? Or recommendations to the designated agent? Mr. Duncan?
The only thing I wondered about, and maybe this is the right place to put it or maybe not, is there information about how much tax revenue is generated by the current use of the property, and how much would be anticipated once the development is built and stabilized? I'm not asking for a full fiscal impact statement, because that's very elaborate, but just a simple, black and white, here's what we make out of this property right now in the city, and here's what we would likely bring in if the sales prices are met at the current asking price.
I don't know how we would work that in. Mr. Zhang, did you want to?
We can definitely find out because we have some information on the Oak, and also maybe on the Lee Park one, because we can do a simple math and ask for the assessment office to give us that information. But we can't give it right now. We don't have it, but we can find it out.
Okay, like I say, it doesn't have to go in 1, 2, 3, but it's a piece of information that would be interesting to know. And we've done fiscal impact statements, obviously, for the mixed-use buildings, and so this is maybe a new frontier for us, but there would be community interest in that information, I think.
And we have to balance that with the new residents too, right?
Yeah,
We have to balance
When
that.
it's stabilized, there'll be a kid count, there'll be other things, but that information will come along in time, but right now, just,
Did we commit to some sort of a postmortem on the kind of like T-zone changes that we made?
that's a good point.
That would be what
That would be
the
a place to
appropriate
capture that.
place for that, I think. But it's a good thought,
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Duncan. Mr. Polinsky, did you have any specific requests? No? Okay, so I think that's our list.
Okay, we can take this back and find out. But simple math will be they're going to have 15 units, that easily 15 million, and then the 3 existing one is less than 3 million. So that's the minimum.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Zhang. And then as far as the topics discussed, is that something that you need us to sort of sort out while we just talk through? It was like a kind of a wide-ranging.
Yeah, I think that'll be
You want to do 1, 2, 3 first,
a lighter
Jack?
lift. Yeah,
Okay.
I just want to make sure we nail down the specific recommendation
So should
language.
consider using denser, can we just say denser screening? Denser vegetation for the rear of the alley units, denser evergreen vegetation for the rear of the alley units.
Sorry, what was that last part?
For the rear of the alley units. Do you want to do the path? Mr. Stevens, or was your original suggestion?
Yeah, I think that the applicant should consider additional programming for the park space next to the Kensington, including possibly a walking trail.
For residents specifically. This is a private property.
Yes,
It's not meant to be
right.
a cut through for the public.
Correct. Yeah.
As not like the Broad and Washington.
Yeah.
Bike racks?
Yeah, for
And
visitors.
the applicant should consider installation of a bike rack in the amenity zone along Park Avenue.
For visitors. Do we want to say that
Yeah.
specifically?
Yes.
I mean, it's for anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that helps explain it.
Yeah. I think that's it.
Jack, can you add the first one is an alley unit and then comma, including unit 1, just very specifically. Include unit 1, unit
Yeah.
12 to 15. Dash 15, yeah.
Yeah, those are the
units. Yeah.
If we want to mention the, like sort of
And the units.
screening the garage or something,
Yeah.
if we want to mention the garage, but that's fine. Okay, and then topics, we need to update that?
Yes.
We talked about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Stormwater,
Let's start it, yeah.
I think this is something staff can just fill in.
it's not the recommendations.
It's
Can we
correct.
do that? Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
More like minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody here has faith in staff summarizing the topics we discussed. Okay, thank you all. So then we have a motion. Would somebody like to make this motion?
Is this the?
Mr. Duncan?
Is this the I move the planning commission
Yep.
approve? Okay. Yes, Madam Chair. I move that the planning commission approve the above recommendations, comments regarding the Lee Park 2 site plan application number 2025-0923 and transmit them to the designated agent for consideration.
And do we do a roll call vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was there-
Oh, I'm sorry, I should have
Question on the motion.
asked for a second first. and
Yeah, I'll
discussion
second it, then I have
and
a
all that.
question. Just the wording, we haven't done this before, I don't think, and we're still adjusting to the new reality after the state code change, but are we approving recommendations, or are we just merely,
Yeah,
are we
it's
agreeing to
similar
transmit them?
question.
We're kind of transmitting them, but I guess we're voting, and if there's a majority of votes to send them as we've, typed them up, or our staff has typed them up, but we're not really, maybe we should be careful about using the word approving, we're not really approving anything. We're merely agreeing to.
It's more that we're aligned on the
Right,
above
we're-
recommendation,
Right.
suggests or something.
Right, if the motion failed, it would mean some people didn't like what was the recommendations that had been, that were drafted, but
Makes the above
we're
recommendation.
not really approving anything. I mean, the motion will either be approved or denied, but we're not, I just want to be careful about, the idea, especially with the new law, that we're not approving anything, when it regards to the site plan, we're merely transmitting or providing recommendations.
Can we just say provide then? I move that the planning commission provide the above recommendations, comments regarding, because that's the action that's happening to the
Right,
designated agent.
that's what I'm getting at. I don't want
Okay,
to
so
belabor it more than we need to.
just swap
but
in provide for approve.
Just didn't like that word.
Thank you, Mr. Krasner.
Maker of the motion agrees to that.
Okay, and we have a second. I'm sorry for my
Yeah,
point
it's
of
okay.
order.
It's okay.
Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, I think we can have a roll call vote, please, Mr. Trainer. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Friedlander.
The approval of the motion is the same. I guess so. Forget it. Got it.
Yeah, the motion will either pass or fail, but yeah, that's okay.
Yes.
I'm good.
Okay, Mr. Trainer.
Okay. Mr. Polinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Mr. Krasner,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Ms. Friedlander,
Yes.
Mr. Kravinsky?
Yes.
And Chair Comont?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
All right. Thank you all. We're figuring this out as we go along, and thank you to the applicant for coming out tonight and sharing the plan with us.
Thank you.
Okay. It's about 9 o'clock. Everybody doing okay? Anyone need a break? Are we hustling through? We have a pretty meaty agenda. Everybody okay? Okay. And I think we can welcome Mr. Olison. The next item on the agenda is the Bike Falls Church presentation on WNOD stop signs. And is this something that staff wants to introduce, or we can just welcome Mr. Olison?
I will turn over to Mr. Olson. Let me pull up the,
Yeah, we'll look at a few of the pages there, but
this was the
well, while it's loading,
agenda.
thank you all for having me. Been looking forward to this for a while. So my name is Andrew Olson. I lead, we've now rebranded to Bike Walk and Roll Falls Church because there was no one else sort of advocating for the pedestrian and other sort of transportation sides. We're doing it all now. I was also vice chair of CECT for 3 years. I'm here to talk about these road crossings, hear your perspectives, hopefully get some alignment. I'll be talking to the Nova Parks director later this month. Ultimately, any decision on changes requires Nova Parks to make that sort of first step. So I'll hit the highlights here in about 5 minutes, and then would love Q&A, try to make this better and preempt any concerns. There's a clicker. I'm not sure, is that going to help us here? Oh, it does. All right. I'll put this up to stare at, but it doesn't really, I don't really need it. I spent more, some of the last 5 years looking into this. Read all the design manuals, studied the Virginia law, looked at what efforts Nova Parks has done over the last 2 decades, what's been done elsewhere. So very, very thorough here and well studied. Just, I'll ground you brief quickly in the history before we go into sort of our crossings. The stop signs on the trail, the way they are in most places today, was installed in the 1970s and early 80s. This is back when these trails were brand new to the world. The bicycling was a recreational activity, and sort of the dominance of cars was rather unquestioned. Since then, the design standards, the federal and state design standards have evolved, and Virginia law has evolved very significantly. Bicycling is now more popular and plays a much bigger role in our transportation network than it did in the 70s and 80s when this design came into being. In 2019, Planning Commission, some of you all and some other folks heard a presentation about these crossings as we were designing the dual trails. The main takeaway from that discussion was that we should try 4-way stops on the trails as a sort of a step along the journey. That ended up being installed in 2024, which is sort of why we're here today. We've had those sort of 4-way stops on the trails installed for over a year now. We've got good experience with that. And there's a new director of Nova Parks. He was formerly the mayor of Alexandria. And in Alexandria on the Mount Vernon Trail, they have put stop signs along the road at several trails, and they've changed the signage on the trail from stop signs to more appropriate and effective signage. So good guy, he's interested in this topic. The data obviously is what matters most, so can you get it so it's in between there? My clicker's not that powerful. All right. When you look at the data on where people get hurt on WNOD crossings, this covers the full 45 miles over several years of Virginia State Police data. You can see on the left, the bars are injuries per year. On the left, places where the trail has stop signs mid-block are the most dangerous crossings. You see the most injuries. On the far right, places where there's a 4-way stop are the safest. There's almost no injuries. And in fact, if you go further to the right, roads, crossings where the road has to stop and the trail doesn't stop, actually have no reported injuries. Now, there's a bit in there like, okay, well, some of these roads are busier than others. If you go to the very bottom, we look at the number of injuries per million cars, sort of a way to normalize for the traffic. And you see again on the 4-way stop there on the right, you have a very low number of injuries per car. But if you move one to the left, this is where the trail has to stop mid-block on a very low volume, 2,000 cars a day street. That's the most dangerous per car. And so it's happening on these intersections where there's the stop signs for the trail and nothing for the road. Cyclists can mostly ride through just fine, don't stop. And if there's a car coming, there's a good chance that someone gets hurt. When you have signals or you have the 4-way stop, the safety gets much better. And actually, as you can see in the call out there, Great Falls Street has the dubious honor of being the most dangerous crossing on the entire WNOD. And that was substantiated again this year when someone was hit back in September at that crossing, even with our new dual trails design, still sort of the same rate of injuries. So that's sort of the grounding in the data. I'll try to go down to the next one here. So we have these four-way stops at Spring, Oak, and Little Falls. They're working great. Behavior is very predictable. Behavior is basically as what Nova Parks wants to see. Drivers stop, look, and then proceed through when it's safe. Bicyclists slow down, look, and then cross. The Nova Parks director told me, the old one, told me that the purpose of the stop signs was not so bicyclists would stop, it was so that they would slow down and pay attention, and that they knew there was a crossing happening, would be careful. As Tool Design recommended in 2019, there's an answer for that, which is the drawing on the right with appropriate signage for slow down and look. And stopping is not even required under Virginia law the way it is now. This change doesn't really change behavior at these intersections at all. Drivers are already stopping, bicyclists and pedestrians are continuing through. What's really important about this, though, is every time you remove a stop sign from the trail, the ones that are left there have more importance. Right? If there's a stop sign every single block and you could ride through them, you'll start to ignore them. But if there's only one stop sign in 45 miles you're riding along, like, wow, this is very different, and I need to pay attention to this. So overuse of stop signs, just like on the road, is a dangerous thing. So by removing these and eventually others, it makes the stop signs that are left, where they're really required, more effective. On Great Falls and Grove is the same. These are still two-way stops for the trail only. The hope here is we can get these to do a one-year pilot of four-way stops, see how that goes, and then eventually move to the same two-way stop configuration. Great Falls is really dangerous for a couple reasons. It's a very, very complicated intersection. You've got the dual trails, you've got a sidewalk, you've got Pennsylvania just off the picture there, and you've got sort of two short blocks away, both Riley and Great Falls. There's a lot going on there. Drivers today went out and counted over 500 drivers and bicyclists and pedestrians over a couple different days. About half of drivers already stop here. That's actually kind of why we have the stop signs in other places, because drivers get rear-ended when they stop and the cars behind them don't expect them to stop. And about a quarter of bicyclists and pedestrians stop when they don't want to get hit by a car. So by putting the stop signs on the road, you get less confusion over who has the right of way. You get less of the sort of stopping and waiting, and you'll see fewer injuries and just slower, more calm behavior at this intersection. There's no intersections like this to the east, so with Nova Parks, I would talk about moving to the west. Falls Church is a great place to pilot this in a more urban environment, and then over time move through Vienna and Reston and Herndon. But we're part of the vanguard in this regard. So that's my spiel. Lots more obviously in the presentation, but we'll love to hear your questions, reactions. I'll take notes here and evolve this thinking as we work with Nova Parks.
Great. Thank you so much for the summary and for all of the research and the presentation. Lots of information in there. We had an opportunity to exchange some emails before, so I want to open it up to everyone else to see if anybody else had any questions.
I have some questions. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Go ahead.
Mr. Olson. He's not a city staff member, is he?
No. I lead the Bike Walk Roll Falls Church nonprofit.
Okay. So you're just a nonprofit organization.
Citizen advocate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how are they authorized to negotiate with Nova Parks on behalf of the city?
They're not. They're not negotiating on our behalf.
Okay.
Mr. Olson's here tonight to get feedback and questions from us so that when he has
You just said something about then he would go back to Nova Parks and...
He is
Yeah,
planning to...
the Washington Area Bicycle Association, the Fairfax Advocates for Better Bicycling, and Bike Falls Church have been working with Nova Parks, advocating on behalf of cyclists and pedestrians for safer trail design for the last 20 years.
Sure, okay.
We're not making like a formal recommendation or
And so
something.
before
We're
I go
just...
back, my hope was to talk to CACT earlier and talk to you all to get, you had interesting comments back in 2019, and so want to bake that in just so we're not going off and recommending something that,
Has city staff involved in this? Wouldn't city staff who just worked on the site plan and did all the work on the crossings? I don't know who in City Hall would have been. Have you been working with anyone in City Hall?
Yeah, I've been talking to city staff as well. I met with the police chief, the sheriff, public works director, Kerry, and...
I just want to make sure we're not short-circuiting like the proper protocols in the process. If we want to make a change on our public roadways, in relation to the trail and that interface, We just went through a long I don't know. I mean, we can certainly chat about
Clear on the process. If there's any
topic
change
at a
to
high
be made,
level, but.
the next decision would need, the city pushed as far as Nova Parks would let them in 2024. The next decision would be Nova Parks saying, we're actually willing to go further, which is the role of advocacy. At that point, it'd be up to the city if they wanted to work with Nova Parks to go that step further. But this is Nova Parks land, largely it's their decision on all this design.
Okay, all right. I mean, I guess there's no harm in chatting about the topic. I'm just not sure how it wound up on the agenda like that, but that's okay. We can talk. I'll let other folks go. I have some thoughts on it, but I'll let other folks go.
All right. Do you want to go first, Mr. Stevens? or-
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks for your passion on the subject. It's good to see you. As someone who's been riding the WNOD since mid-1970s, when I came to this area, it's good to see, a lot of thought being put into this, because the reality is, for those of us that ride the trail, is you come up to a intersection with a stop sign, but if you just stop there, it creates more confusion than if you create or achieve eye contact with the drivers. And once they recognize that you're there, then go ahead and cross. If you stop again, it just creates a lot of confusion. So I don't know what the right words are, and you've come up with an approach here, and maybe those are the right ones. I know Mr. Baldino has to consider the entire length of the trail, and so there may be not only other jurisdictions but just other issues that have to be considered. But something other than just a stop sign, which has just always been kind of very challenging in my experience. So I appreciate that you've kind of launched this discussion, and I hope it kind of leads to consensus throughout the region on the best way to handle these kinds of intersections. Obviously, the world that we live in today is different than it was 30, 40 years ago when the WNOD trail was first put in, and biking habits, driving habits, all of these things are different today than they were, and I think it's appropriate that we reassess and consider what the best approach is to improve safety and efficiency at these intersections. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Mr. Kaminsky?
Thank you. Thanks for this. So just to clarify, currently, there's a four-way stop at Great Falls on the bike path and Little Falls on the bike path. It's a four-way stop.
On Spring Oak and Little Falls, there are four-way stops. On Grove and Great Falls, it's a stop for the bicyclists only.
Stop for the bicyclists only.
And then pedestrians.
The trail.
And you're recommending for all of those crossings a stop sign for the vehicular traffic on the road with that sign that says cross traffic does not stop.
That's right.
And then you would put a slow and look sign on the trail itself.
Exactly.
It seems like a good solution. I will say that I live on Little Falls, just a block away from that bike trail, and it is confusing. It seems like a little bit of a roll of the dice every time you either cross on your bike or you cross on the road. So this seems like a better solution. I would certainly support it.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Friedlander?
Thank you. I was also surprised by this showing up on the agenda mid-morning today, so I didn't really get a chance to review and kind of do my due diligence to understand the issue. But I think, being a cyclist, but also being a driver, cyclists are using the roadways and need to abide by the signage and the traffic laws that cars abide by, right? So a stop sign on a bike trail, to me as a driver, is a stop. But a lot of times as a driver, the bikes are not stopping. They blow off the stop sign. So I think a lot of that confusion is because the cyclists are not following standard traffic laws and
It's
rules.
actually, that's actually one of the reasons to change this, because that dynamic does create a lot of, I think, tension and like, those, scofflaw cyclists blowing through the stop signs. There's two things at play here. One, you're not required to stop at the stop signs under Virginia law. Virginia changed the law in 2013. As a cyclist on a shared use path, you are a pedestrian. You have the same rights and duties as a pedestrian. So stop signs don't apply to you unless some other like laws you can pass to cover that. So you're not required to stop at them. And then secondarily, they don't meet the requirements of the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So it's a bad design, and so what you're seeing are cyclists and pedestrians reacting to a design that just doesn't make intuitive sense. And if you look into the way the manuals tell you to design these intersections, they don't match that, and that's why you're seeing this, what looks like behavior of just blowing through a stop sign, but it's actually in concert with the law, in concert with what Nova Parks wants to happen at the intersection, and it's what the design manuals would tell you you should expect people to do in this situation.
Well, I would think too, though, that you would need to re-educate drivers to understand that Virginia law that allows cyclists not to pay attention to a stop sign.
A stop sign on a trail.
On a trail.
On a trail, right. Like, I don't know how many drivers actually know that that is the law in the Commonwealth. Like, I didn't know that. So I'm a little bit ambivalent to this, only because I would prefer to leave it with the people who understand the traffic and the laws and then can educate the public appropriately.
Yeah, and that's part of why we landed on this as the recommendation, because we've tried the enforcement of these stop signs back when it was law, and that didn't work. We've changed the law, and we've tried education, and that doesn't work because it's too many people to try to do that. What this does is matches behavior, and not just like, it matches behavior and the law and the existing law to the design. So it keeps everything else that's hard, like changing laws and changing behavior, and fixes the design, which is the easier thing to change.
I understand your point.
Thank you.
Mr. Crespo?
Yeah, a few issues. Obviously, as a bike advocacy organization, you clearly have a point of view and a particular bent, and by all means, you should advocate, for that. I think as the city, we need to balance, our public infrastructure, and safety for all users, including cars. And including those even pedestrians who are walking adjacent. I walk often on the Spring Street little crossing of the trail. And with, I can tell you how many times I've had to jump out of the way of a bicyclist who's zooming by on an e-bike. And today, you talk about changes over time. Think about how much faster electric bikes can go compared to pedal power bikes. Now almost everyone's on an e-bike, not everybody, but a large percentage are, and they're zooming by at 20. I know there's certain rules about how fast e-bikes can be and their speeds and their battery capacity, but a lot of folks have souped up e-bikes. They're zooming by on something that's more like a motorcycle. And, we already have a problem with people, right? Again, maybe it's an education thing, custom, culture, but a lot of bicyclists just blow through the stop signs. They assume the car will stop. They know now there's a four-way stop there, and they zoom right by. There have been a couple times where I've come to a complete stop at that one and at some of the others, expecting the bicyclist to come to a stop, so you're anticipating the bicyclist coming to stop. I was there first. I see them coming like 10 yards, 15 yards away. At a normal four-way stop, you're there first, you get the right of way. But, they continued right through. And one time a woman almost she screamed because she was through. And I just by human nature in the car started to go. So I think it's not so simple as just saying we're going to pull up the stop signs. I also think it raises some concern about, then we have at West Street, we have the actual signal. I've seen bicyclists ignore that too. So, you're advocating for removing that as well.
No, the signals that you saw in the crash data have fairly good rates of safety and much higher rates of compliance than the stop signs. At Spring Street, before the four-way stop went in, 99% of bicyclists and pedestrians did not stop there.
Yeah, so I guess, in theory, I get it. There should be consistency. I agree with you there. There certainly should be consistency along a 40-mile trail. And then, of course, and then if there was over time, they're getting culture and people, getting familiarity with it, would begin to understand that the trail, always has the right of way and they're not going to stop. But I think right now, whether it's signed or not, even before we had the four-way stops, again, there was a confusion about who had the right of way and and a lot of cars, again, people don't want to hit somebody, so people would usually, I always did, even before we had the stop signs on Oak and Spring, for example, I would always slow down almost or come to a complete stop and look because I was afraid a cyclist was going to just blow through it. So I just think it's a complicated issue. Obviously, Nova Parks, right, is responsible for the whole segment, the whole long 40-mile trail, and they need to work with the member jurisdictions, and we're, as you said, we're just a small part of that. We're one of the more urban parts, but we're certainly not the only jurisdiction. Town of Vienna has many very dense kind of urban style crossings that have similar issues that we have and similar conflicts. So it's definitely a good issue to try to work on a solution. I don't know if it's as clear cut, as the cyclist may want. I mean, I get it from a cyclist point of view. You'd like to have an unobstructed, you'd be able to just keep on cruising, and get the right of way. But I think it's just more complicated for safety. Because of the potential, again, as a cyclist, as we know, if a cyclist is hit, it's going to be a lot worse for the cyclist. And so there's a lot of safety risks that the cyclist might have a false sense of security too, by saying, well, I have the right of way, because it's just, you don't change people's habits and culture on a dime. And I think it'd be difficult.
Yeah, to be clear, the goal here is not to change anyone's habits other than having drivers stop at stop signs, and bicyclists already have the right of way at every crossing.
Right, but the problem is there's a stop sign there now, so if we just installed all those, and so if we were to pull them up in a year, it's just confusing. It would take a lot of public education, I think, in advance. You see how much outreach we tried to do just on the four-way stop, just for cars here. How, because people's drivers, you have like almost like muscle memory in your brain about like what you do at intersections, and so you can see all the work we're going through to make sure it's safe to pull out the signal here at the intersection here by City Hall. It'd be the same thing here, but the stakes are even higher to some degree because, God forbid, you have somebody who assumes, oh, the cyclists are going to stop. Oh, wait a second, they just got rid of the stop signs. So it'd be a process. I'm not saying it's not something to continue to work towards a better solution. I'm not saying what we have now is perfect and we should keep it, but it's complicated. You need to balance all users of the public, in the public sphere, not just the cyclists. Including, again, it's the cross traffic too, and not just the cars on the cross traffic. It's walkers and other people on the cross street. So that's my comment. It's complicated. Certainly it's good to know people are thinking about it because it's not perfect now for sure, but it's not as simple maybe as you might, be insinuating here, in my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Krasner. Mr. Duncan or Mr. Polinsky, do y'all have any comments or questions?
So the stop signs that would change are all the four-way stops on the trail inside Falls Church? So Great Falls and others, or are you looking primarily at Great Falls as the primary choice here?
I think the goal here would be to have Oak Spring and Little Falls, which are currently four-way stops, move to two-way stops for cars, which is how they function today, practically. And then on Great Falls Street and Grove Avenue, where there's stop signs for the trail only, to start with a four-way stop there, like we have on the other three streets, see how that goes, and then reassess at that point.
As Mr. Krasner was mentioning, there are a lot of other jurisdictions that also have similar experiences, or similar type of intersections within or at the trail in dense environments. Are there any parallel efforts in other areas or other jurisdictions to make these same changes, or is this a Falls Church only?
In D.C., the Federal Department of Transportation told the National Park Service to remove the stop signs on the Rock Creek Park Trail a couple of years ago. They reviewed and came through all the same kind of manuals I've looked at. In Montgomery County, the Park Service is putting, not using stop signs on trails. In Alexandria, like I mentioned, on the Mount Vernon Trail, they removed some of the stop signs from the trail and added them to the road on lower volume streets. Actually, here in Falls Church, too, we have several shared use paths where the shared use path crosses the road and there are not stop signs. So in many ways, the WNOD is sort of the anomalous one in the...
Do you know if on the WNOD, either Nova Parks or other jurisdictions would be making these same changes? If these changes got implemented, would these be in Falls Church only?
I think, to start, probably, we'll see what Nova Parks thinks. Herndon was actually ahead of us on this. They have had these four-way stops for years. That's why we got them, because we could point to Herndon and say, well, they do it there, why can't we do it here? And Nova Parks had to be like, a good point. So I think it's up to them to how would they work with other jurisdictions. The consistency has been a big talking point through the last 10 years of this conversation of all the intersections need to look the same. The truth is, though, they're all different with different contexts, and cyclists and drivers navigate different intersections that are designed for the context. I think Nova Parks is kind of coming around to that thought that like we need to not just kind of copy paste the same thing, but suit it to the environment that's there.
So is the conversation with Nova Parks that you're going to have a please take action on this, or is this, so what is the next step in that conversation?
Yeah, I think it's a very exploratory, open-ended discussion with the new director on a number of topics. He's very excited to use the dual trails in Falls Church to advocate for that in other areas. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about intersection design, safety, a couple other topics too. So very open-ended and exploratory. We'll see where the interest lies and go from there.
Okay. Not sure what I think yet, but I appreciate bringing the conversation.
Any comments from you, Mr. Duncan?
I think I second what was all just said. I'm still mindful of what Mr. Baldino said, which is, this should be before the Nova Parks and should be assessed by staff, and there should be some consistency to the degree that that's possible across the whole trail. And thank you for all the dedication to gathering information, and appreciate the spirit of experimentation to a certain degree. I mean, at some point, I would assume that Nova Parks would like to get as much consistency as possible across all the jurisdictions. But I would certainly look to them to, be the leader in this. I mean, back when Walter Mess was the, lord of the WNOD, the rule in Falls Church was, the mayor was powerful, but then there was Walter Mess. And so, we're respectful of the prerogatives of Nova Parks, and that would certainly be the case on an issue like this. Thanks, though, for coming up.
Thanks, Mr. Duncan. Mr. Kravinsky, you had another comment.
Thanks. Just one follow-up question. So when I'm on the trail, the place that makes me the most nervous is Shreve Road because of the high volume, not the speed of the cars. And I don't know that a lot of them, they don't even know that there's a crossing there. What is your solution there, and how is that different from Great Falls?
Yeah, that is a higher volume, higher speed road. I didn't do this level of detail for intersections outside Falls Church.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them.
I understand.
There's Fairfax County looked at that and has a plan for the Shreve Road corridor, including how to make that safer. They did some quick fixes that I'm not sure helped. That intersection is actually not as dangerous as Great Falls for exactly the reason you said. It makes you nervous, so you extra pay attention when cycling across it.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Well, I would just, for my own part, I appreciate all of the research that you did. I really appreciate your advocacy. I hope that you have a really great conversation with Nova Parks about some of these recommendations later this month. To me, I think these changes make a lot of sense. They align with the actual behavior that we're observing on the trail. I'm a cyclist, also a driver, so I've experienced both things both ways. And I think your recommended proposal is a lot clearer for both parties. Would hopefully prevent some rear-ending because drivers would be expecting other drivers to stop at the stop sign, and encourage cyclists, recognize that cyclists are not likely to actually come to a complete and full stop, and ensure that drivers are not expecting them to do that because we're telling them the cross traffic does not stop with the signage. So to me, I think that's a much clearer situation for everyone, for trail users and for the street users. The one question I had, I think, for you was about potential queuing on Great Falls. That's already happening on those super busy summer days. So that would be something I know, if Nova Parks were to take this recommendation, that particular intersection, like, we'd probably want to look at what that might look like. It's already queuing now, so sort of the existing situation, but I'm hopeful that the trail will continue to attract more cyclists, more users, and so it could be that we have future summer weekends where it's kind of a big backup. But yeah, I'm hopeful that this would improve safety certainly for trail users, and also allow drivers to proceed more confidently through these intersections when it's safe to do so. So that's my perspective. Anything else? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it, and I'll incorporate this feedback when I talk to the Nova Parks director.
Good luck. And thank you for coming out, Mr. Palladino. Okay, I think that brings us to the Comprehensive Plan Chapter 8 update. And we have Ms. Larive. Welcome. Does staff want to introduce this, or we can just let Zoe take it away?
Hello, just 1 second. I'm pulling up or sharing my screen. Okay. Hopefully. Okay, there we go. Thank you for having me tonight, and Happy New Year. Yes, I'll try to keep this brief as it's been a long meeting, but we are here to talk about the update to the Chapter 8 of the city's comprehensive plan, which is titled Community Building Blocks, Community Facilities, Infrastructure, Utilities, and Public Services. So the purpose of this plan in this specific chapter is to be used as a regular guide for public investments and budgeting and prioritization of needs. In some of the documents you can see on screen up there. It should also be used as a reference for third-party utility providers and private development applicants when they're considering the community needs in some investments they may make. So the chapter is organized into the draft chapter is organized into the 4 key sections, which are government services and facilities, public safety, city utility services, third-party utilities. So that has not changed since the previous draft. Neither has what each section provides, which is an overview of existing facilities, an evaluation of their respective needs, and preliminary recommendations to address the noted challenges. So that's for each individual section underneath. They have each of those things. All right, so throughout this presentation, you might see that there's some text in red that reflects changes since the previous draft was shared in September, I believe September 17th. That is noted throughout the actual draft chapter and this presentation. So the proposed vision statement reads as follows. Civic infrastructure and services serve as building blocks for any healthy and thriving community. The city must therefore maintain and evolve its facilities, education system, public safety measures, and government operations and services to sustain a high quality of life today and prepare for the conditions of tomorrow, including expected population and employment growth, changing demographic profiles, and a changing climate. City facility design and service delivery should continue to emphasize accessibility and efficiency, celebrate heritage, further integrate technology, and continual improvements, and serve as a source of community pride. All right. Next, you will see the guiding principles that we use to assess each subject, as well as determining what future goals and actions we are recommending. I won't go through all of them. They've remained, for the most part, the same since the previous version, with an added reference to the Community Energy Action Plan and Government Operations and Energy Plan. Yes. All right, so we are here today after our public outreach period. So as I mentioned before, we last visited the Planning Commission in September for a work session where we shared the first version of the draft chapter. That meeting came after we had shared the draft chapter with City Council at a work session, and then went back for a regular session to be referred out to boards and commissions. After we had the joint session with you and Public Utilities Commission on September 17th, we went to the Human Services Advisory Council and the Environmental Sustainability Council to present the draft chapter. We also conducted tabling events at the library's used book sale in October, the farmers market also in October, and did an open house prior to the Planning Commission on November 5th. Not listed on the slide is the employee town hall, which happened in October, where we gave a similar presentation to city employees as they are the main occupants of most city facilities. We also reached out virtually to share the chapter and seek feedback from various other groups, both with the city and outside of the city. So those are listed to the right there. There's Aurora House, Citizens Advisory Committee, CACT, EDA, the Library Board of Trustees, the Rec and Parks Advisory Board, Friends of Cherry Hill, and Friends of the Falls Church Homeless Shelter. So from that process, we got a list of recommendations, and so there are various revisions you can find throughout the draft noted in red. However, some of the bigger changes that I wanted to highlight are the new cover format, which you can see in the picture right there, as well as additional references to the city's sustainability goals and related plans, a section summarizing the ULI TAP's main recommendations, and these Think Green call-out boxes that either describe specific strides the city has made to meeting their sustainability goals or opportunities to advance those goals. So those are thrown in throughout the chapter at various points, just to call out the progress we have made and the opportunities. So to quickly go over the process to date, we began this chapter with various scoping exercises in March of 2024. Throughout that process, we held a kickoff with Planning Commission, Public Utilities Commission, and City Council, where we floated the draft scope and sought feedback and ideas at that stage. The next presentation to the public came in September of 2025 after a thorough process of interviews and drafting and reviewing and seeking review from our stakeholders. We came to City Council on September 2nd to present the full draft. And then we proceeded to present the draft to you and go along with that process of community engagement that I described before. So to look out to the near future and the final steps for this plan, we are here tonight presenting the improved draft. We will be taking the same draft and materials to City Council on February 2nd. From there, we are planning on hosting a public hearing with Planning Commission on February 18th and a public hearing and final consideration on March 9th with City Council. One other note is that on the staff report, I believe the note for the Planning Commission hearing is February 2nd. I believe that is not the most current date, that we are instead planning that for February 18th at this point. Yes, so that's my general presentation. You can also see in our attachments that we have a comment response matrix where we have tried to note the main comments we got from boards and commissions, as well as staff's either changes they made as a result, or our reasoning, or just general responses. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Reeve. That was a great summary. Obviously, a lot of work went into this. So, any questions or this is our final work session on this item. We'll be back for approval at the public hearing on the 18th. Nobody?
No, I don't have any additional comments from previous sessions that we've had on this, so.
Okay. Mr. Kravinsky.
First of all, thanks. From the September 17th, one of the issues that we raised was the aquatic center. I think you did a great job sort of scoping that out and saying, this is what the potential is and this is what we're envisioning. So kudos with that. On the if we're looking at the report itself, I don't know that we made any changes to recommendation 5.2, which was about the communications utility lines. Let me see if I find that here. 5.2. And I think the comment that I had made was that we needed to stomp our foot with ensuring that the communications companies were compliant with all of the code requirements before we renew the franchise agreements. So that doesn't seem as though that got in there. And is there a reason that didn't?
Yes, so there was discussion about that topic. There were previous versions included different language. Basically, we've found that with the franchise agreement, it doesn't offer a lot of flexibility in what we can put out as a strategy, as most of the work is not on our side as the city. But I can look into it further and speak with Cindy Mester, who manages the third-party contracts, to see if there's any stronger language we can include about cleaning up those
I would
holes.
encourage that. I think if you look at 5.2, you may want to add something like ensure communications companies fulfill requirements to include the removal of dual utility poles over removal prior to renewal of franchise agreements. I think we were, when we discussed it here, there was some concern that those poles weren't coming down, and this is a good opportunity to stomp our foot on that. And then there was also the issue of concurrent undergrounding when we're undergrounding power lines. I defer to you. We don't have the leverage to do that. I don't know if we want to identify that in the plan, in this chapter, to say that we support legislative changes from Richmond or not. That may be a bridge too far to sort of advocate for something that is not code, but I'll defer to you. But certainly ensuring that the communications companies fulfill their requirements prior to renewal of their franchise agreements, I think is an important thing to stomp our foot on. So, And I think you did a pretty good job in terms of the expansion of City Hall. That was one of the other issues I brought up, and I think it sort of says we're going to explore options, and I thought you folks did a pretty good job in terms of how that was written. So that's all.
Thank you.
Great. Ms. Friedlander.
Thank you for all the hard work that you guys put in. I can see a lot of our comments as well as a lot of the other comments from the other boards came through. And so I think, and it's really showing in this iteration. I do have a couple of questions, just in terms of public utilities, considered infrastructure. In the vision statement, like we do address it very well and very clearly later in the document, but in the vision statement, the infrastructure maintenance and evaluation of existing infrastructure to kind of keep up with our facilities and all of the redevelopment and all of this good stuff that our city's doing isn't mentioned in the vision statement. And so I'm curious why. I think we were talking about, or at least I thought we were talking about saying in the second sentence, the city must therefore maintain and evolve its built facilities, public utilities, and then the rest is the same. So is there a reason why we're not mentioning the utilities and that infrastructure, or even infrastructure to support our facilities?
No, there is not. Basically, we were realizing this as I was reading through all the comments from last time, that somehow that specific comment got lost. I think that would be a very easy change to make before we go to City Council for our work session, and definitely before we return to you. Yeah, I think somehow with adding the services and safety measures element, it just got lost, but I think we can definitely add that reference back in, as it is such a big part of this chapter.
Yeah, and you guys did a great job with the expansion of how we're dealing with that later in the chapter. So I was just confused. And then the other question I had was in guiding principles, because we have like aging sanitary and stormwater, I think we talked about like conducting an evaluation and analysis to include like the capacity studies. And is there a reason, I didn't see it in here, but I also didn't comb through, in detail. But are those capacity studies already underway and that's why they're not in here? Or I almost feel like they need to be mentioned in some way as a guiding principle.
I would need to speak with our DPW, with Reza, who is our sanitary sewer engineer, to confirm any capacity studies that might be going on. I believe the general reasoning, we don't go into much detail about stuff like capacity studies, is the feeling that belongs more in the master plan that is hopefully moving forward, I think, imminently, if not in the next year or few years. With that being said, I think we could do another review of that section and see if having that a reference to a capacity analysis could be added to the section. As far as the guiding principles, I think we were thinking that the long-term planning principle could cover some of that, looking at plan, design, and construct city facilities, infrastructure, and utilities that meet the functional needs and capacity of the present and the future. Okay. So that was the one that we were thinking covered that.
All right, thank you. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Great. Mr. Krasner.
Yeah, just a few things. I mean, I appreciate the additional work, as you guys have been plugging away at this. Couple things. Well, similar to what Ms. Freelander just mentioned, but this on the stormwater side. I mean, I think I mentioned this the first time, and I think there was a little bit of work done on that, but it'd be great. I mean, I get it. There's the master plan, process, which I think is, more specific for stormwater as well. But it'd be great to have a little bit more specificity, in this chapter, when you're talking about it. I mean, a little bit, it reads a little, I don't know if superficial is the right word, but it's kind of like high level. It's not really getting specific. And we know that we have, like, for example, you could have a map that shows the 2019, task force projects and maybe show what's been completed. Some have just been completed, some are still underway or planned. But I mean, it'd be good to, I think, be specific about that, to acknowledge that, we know we have certain points in the city that are problems. Like I said, otherwise it just reads it reads a little bit superficial. So similar to the sanitary sewer issue, I think a little more detail could be put into the stormwater section. Like I always say, like, the only reason we haven't been talking more about stormwater is because we haven't had a big storm since 2019, but the clock is ticking and our luck will run out sooner or later. And it'll be front and center again, and the city and the council will be all over it again. So it'd be great if we could, again, have some stuff in the plan that acknowledges, the ongoing challenges and what we're focusing on. Some other things I noticed, just a little thing, but these are the kind of things that always irk me. Page 62, that beautiful picture is not in the city of Falls Church. It's not even close, really. It's down on Shreve Road. That's not in Falls Church. And we were just talking about bikes. That's out by Shrevewood Elementary.
Yep.
In Fairfax. I love Fairfax. Spend a lot of time there. But let's have our city. Let's have all our images be in the city.
That is a very fair point. Thank you for raising
So that's a little thing. I'm sure we have also, if you want to show like the high voltage lines, we have plenty of those too. So you can show the Falls Church high voltage lines along the trail. I do appreciate you included the picture of the tangled mess that we have, on some of our poles. And, I think we've talked a couple times with Cindy Mester, about the multiple poles. And I don't know, I didn't see that kind of work its way in here to some of the noted actions and strategies. I mean, that's still something I think holding some of our franchisees' feet to the fire on not just the mess of lines, but removing old poles and, redundant poles. I'd love to see that work its way in here just so, and I'm not saying it's going to change what the utility companies do tomorrow, but it's just something that, again, reminds people that we acknowledge this is a problem. I think a lot of residents, don't feel like nobody cares, like nothing can be done. It's one of those things where you just throw up your hands and say, it's been there for years, nothing can ever happen. But if we acknowledge that, we agree it's a problem, we obviously don't have the full control over it. We're working with these utility partners. But so I would recommend that you add something about that issue, in that section, like somewhere in strategy, in the strategy 5, list for telecom. And or electricity, and wherever you want to put it in there, wherever it makes sense for the poles. But so I would say that would be a good thing. I mean, otherwise, yeah. Like overall, I like the layout. It's attractive. It reads well. It's easy to navigate. I just think where you can be specific, I think you should be, because otherwise, like was just said, it reads kind of generic, and we don't want it to we want it to actually have some value, and that's the way it'll have value, by being as specific as you can be with the strategies and recommendations, so we can use it as it's intended as a guide for future action.
Thank you. We'll take note and look into the different recommendations.
Great. Anyone else on this side? Mr. Duncan?
Good work. I think you're at the point now where I'm supposed to do my close scouring of the text to see if I can catch any glitches. So promise to do that before you come back. I think Trips Run does not have an apostrophe. That's my opening bid. And I haven't checked to see if Founders Row is in there anywhere, but make sure that doesn't have an apostrophe either.
We'll check that.
Thank you very much.
One of our staff is a very talented technical writer, and must have missed that one. So we'll get back to it, and we'll give him a note about it.
Great. Mr. Polinsky, did you have any comments? Okay. Anything else? All right. I had a few. First, well, I missed the September 17th meeting, sadly, so I don't have a lot of super substantive things. I would second the recommendation from Mr. Kravinsky and Mr. Krasner to continue to advocate for the removal of those sort of orphaned, abandoned poles and concurrent undergrounding. However we can phrase it, those two things, I think from a public kind of beautification perspective and just like a, resident, making our residents happy perspective, I think those would be good to get in here. I really like the new look and feel of the cover. It's really nice. Is this going to be sort of like the look and feel for all the comprehensive plan chapters?
That's loosely the idea. We're about 1 week into having this cover. So
yeah, it's really nice. It's like you can find, like you're on chapter 8. It makes you understand that there are other chapters, right? And like you've chosen like a symbol for each to kind of navigate through. So it's really nice. I like it, and the whole design is like Mr. Krasner said. I think I found it pretty easy to navigate. So. And it looks like you got some really excellent feedback from the ESC, which you incorporated. I noted a lot of sort of like energy items throughout that were in red, that were new. So I just want to thank our ESC members for their great feedback on this. I did have some comments on the vision statement. If you could go to that. I'm an editor, and so I tend to like want to edit things. One kind of bigger picture thing here, we mentioned in the vision statement the education system. I don't really think the education system is like part of this particular comprehensive plan chapter. Certainly those facilities are, but that I feel like is captured in facilities. So that's the purview of the education, like the school board in my mind. So I would strike that reference. And I have some other kind of like wording changes. I kind of edited it a little bit myself just to smooth out some of the language in a few places. And also kind of make clear that idea of like continual improvement that you mentioned in the second paragraph. So if you don't mind, I'll just read it out and then I'm going to email it to you.
Great, thank you.
But the sort of slightly revised was civic infrastructure and public services are the foundation of a healthy, thriving community. To build for the future, the City of Falls Church must maintain and evolve its built facilities, public utilities, and government services to support a high quality of life and prepare for growth, demographic shifts, and a changing climate. Facility design and service delivery should prioritize accessibility, efficiency, and innovation, and reflect a commitment to continuous improvement. Together, these investments should honor the city's unique identity and heritage and stand as an enduring source of community pride. So it's similar, it's just flows a little bit better, I think, in my opinion. So, but I know like vision statements are hard to do.
That sounded great to me. We'll take it a further look.
I'll
when
email
we
it
see
to you. I think all of the little pieces are in there. It's just maybe a little smoother.
It became a bit of an and type of thing as it went on. So an outside perspective is very helpful.
When you have a lot of people saying, put this in and add this here and add this here, it can get hard. And sometimes you have to kind of just step back and rework it a little bit. So anyway, yeah, it's easier to do when you don't have any attachment to it. So that's it from me. Thank you for all the hard work. This is obviously like a really important chapter for the city. And I think you all did a really excellent job of gathering a ton of information about the current state of our facilities and infrastructure, and some great recommendations and ideas for how to move forward.
Thank you. And I just want to note that we had a lot of people on city staff and our partner organizations who helped. I think we tallied it up and we interviewed over 30 people, some repeatedly. So just want to spread the thanks to them as well.
Absolutely. Takes a village.
Yeah, I have to chime in. Zoe in particular, but Emily and others, the effort involved in collecting the amount of comments,
Yeah.
like just what we heard in the last 30 minutes, just multiplied by 50. It's really impressive to see, what are we up to, 77 pages? We'll probably get to 80 when this is all over, but the amount of time that it has taken, and I think the surgical updates that I think you see in the current version, I think really reflect how thorough the feedback has been and how we've been able to kind of reconcile a lot of the feedback. So Zoe and Emily really did a great job, and this really looks great. So
I really appreciate the comment matrix and seeing all the comments and how they were addressed. It's really a great practice, so I appreciate that you all take the time to do that.
Thank you. And just to add a quick note, with the comments we missed, we're going to go back over that meeting and make sure that we have those reflected. Yeah, we've just noticed the one, but we'll go back and make sure those are in the matrix as well, so the PC comments are noted.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll see you, Zoe. Okay, I think that brings us to the annual report draft review.
Yep. So, yeah, the last two items on the agenda are two more just beginning of the year administrative things that the commission covers. The first is its annual report. So again, this is a work session on the draft that's been provided. The annual report, of course, captures all the activity from the Planning Commission, all your motions and recommendations to City Council, all the actions taken over the course of calendar year 2025. Again, that draft's been provided, and action on it is currently scheduled following the advance, which is scheduled for next Wednesday. And so the recommendation to City Council, part of the report, has been left blank because obviously you haven't made those yet. That'll be the core focus of the advance, is to come to those recommendations to City Council on what to include in their work plan for calendar year 2026 and 2027. So following the advance, again, when the Planning Commission makes those recommendations, we'll essentially incorporate those right into the draft annual report, and then the Planning Commission will basically take action on the report after that. So that's the only piece that's missing. But other than that, I welcome any other edits or comments to the draft that's been provided.
Great. Thank you. Any feedback for Jack, Mr. Kaminsky?
This is a good draft. I appreciated reading it. The one thing that I do think it misses is I think you need to address in the introduction the seismic shift that has happened this year with regard to our responsibilities. I would add a whole additional paragraph in there, saying it looks like you have room, you don't even have to add a page, but I would probably add a paragraph that says something like, in 2025, based on legislation coming out of the Commonwealth, there were significant changes to both the responsibilities in terms of approving site plans and the timing of those site plans, the timelines on those site plans. Just sort of, you do mention it, you say here the Planning Commission also makes recommendations to the designated agent on site plan applications, but I would probably call out a whole additional paragraph on what changed. I mean, it was sort of our big thing this year. So just mentioning it in the intro, I think would be good. That's all.
Thank you. That's a good comment.
Any other suggestions or comments? Mr. Stevens.
I would second that comment. I think that's a good catch to highlight. Otherwise, it looks really good to me. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, it looks good.
Mr. President.
We're all smiling in the picture, our eyes are open. So that's the first step.
The main thing. I did wonder about, on page 4, the speaker series. When was our last speaker series?
Couple of years.
Yeah, since we haven't done one, I don't know that I need this paragraph to remind me that we didn't do one in 2025. So
That's why I was there.
you could just cut it.
We should
I
discuss
mean,
that at the retreat,
and
the speaker series. That's something at the retreat we should maybe discuss.
I agree. That's what, I was gonna.
That was something Mr. Stoddard had introduced, I think. And
Yeah,
there's
and
probably
it's-
still some merit, but maybe we
It lives on the agenda.
we talk about it.
but
Maybe it doesn't have to be on the
let's-
agenda every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you should give a speech every time, so we have you.
Yeah, you're our
Speaker
speaker,
series. I don't know
our
if you want
speaker,
that.
Mr. Krasner. So yeah, I maybe cut that paragraph and to Mr. Kravinsky's suggestion, which I agree with. If you wanted to, I don't know where is the best place to work that in. You work it in the introduction, that's fine. You could also maybe go into this sort of what happened in 2025 section. So if it feels better down here, and if you need specific language from me to summarize, or I'm happy to help, just let me know.
Okay.
But those are only 2 things. Thank you again, Jack, every year for putting this together. Really appreciate it. You do such a nice job with it. Capture all of our emotions with everything, every meeting. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I need to talk with Zoe about maybe some graphic design, perhaps even more around the report. So
Make Mr. Duncan bigger.
Whatever you do, get that old guy out of there. Who
I loved that, but it made me smile when I came to
let
that
him
page.
out of the home?
That was great. Okay, yeah, and I noted down we'll talk more about the advance too. Okay, any other comments on annual report draft? No, okay. Okay, so that brings us to the rules of procedure and the remote participation policy, reviewing both of those.
Yep. So again, this is another work session, and the Planning Commission will be asked to officially approve the rules of procedure and remote participation policy during your meeting next week. So a couple updates to the rules of procedure, and that they're mostly to reflect the changing responsibility of the Planning Commission as pertains to site plans. So there was language in there previously that was around public hearings required for site plans and the Planning Commission's, previous role in approving those. So the language has been updated to reflect the new role, the advisory position that the Planning Commission has, and then also the outline procedure that we kind of followed tonight. That again is still, recognizing that's sort of a work in progress, but we did include, draft language around just kind of explaining how procedurally this will continue to go. So all new proposed language is highlighted in gray, and then any proposed changes are in the red strike through. And then the only other significant changes are around the schedule for updating the comprehensive plan chapters and related appendages, like the bike master plan and the affordable living policy, which I'll just scroll down to here. So here's the summary that was included, and just notice that there were a couple of things that the Planning Commission took action on that need to be reflected in this table. So we've included the demographics chapter that was updated most recently in 2024. And then within the Chapter 7, Transportation, we've included the Bicycle Master Plan update and the Affordable Living Policy update. And then we'll continue to update this table as comp plan chapters are amended.
Great, thank you. Any questions, comments? I have a couple of things. I can go first. At line 162, when we're talking about the plans that the Planning Commission what the Planning Commission should be referencing in its deliberations. I thought it was weird that we didn't mention the small area plans. So when reviewing proposed land use applications, Commission shall be guided by the Code of Virginia, Code of the City of Falls Church, Comprehensive Plan, And then this priorities matrix, which I had to familiarize myself with. But I wanted to see the small area plans in there as well. Because they're related to the comprehensive plan, but they're not part of it.
Right.
So I would recommend that we add that.
Okay. Yeah, and they are included in the table
Yeah, I saw that they
down
were.
here, so it makes sense to bring
but in
those up here too.
Yeah, just like to be clear, that is also something we should be looking at.
Okay.
And then going back to that table, you had the land use chapter update is like pegged at 2017. Is that just because like we updated the future land use map or something? We haven't touched that chapter since 2005. So I was just trying to figure out where that 2017 date came from.
Sorry, which?
The land use chapter, chapter 4, 2016, sorry, 2016. I'm pretty sure it's 2005. It's what the original.
Yeah, I think you're right. I wonder if there was, I'll double check that.
Okay. And then there was one typo, line 762, if you go down. I don't even know why I was reading all the way down here. I just read the whole thing. Go down. Oh, sorry, Jack. I'll let you take your notes.
What was the line number?
762. And it says fits, and I think it should be gifts.
No gifts or favors?
Inferred that the gifts, that the fits or favors, I think it should be gifts or favors.
Fits or favors. Sometimes the
No, the second, fits,
What is
not
it,
the
the
gifts, not the fits. Yes, thank you.
Gifts or favors?
Eagle-eyed, okay.
I don't know why, I just.
762.
Planning process.
Yeah,
Public spending.
should be gifts, and that's the only thing I saw.
No gifts or favors.
Thank you.
And a good reminder for all of us. Okay. Any other comments on the rules of procedure? Do we need to bring up the remote? There were no changes recommended to the remote participation
Correct.
policy, right? Okay, everybody reviewed that again. We're familiar with that. Okay, great.
And if there's any thoughts on, procedurally, tonight and how, how to address capturing the Planning Commission's comments, I think that could be valuable if there are any observations or suggestions about, how to improve that procedure, because, it is new, obviously, and we're working on together. So any recommendations around there would be appreciated too.
Okay, maybe that's another mini topic at the advance next week, potentially. All right. I think that brings us to our commissioner reports, our information items. We're 7 minutes ahead of schedule, everybody.
Amazing.
Anybody have anything to report? Mr. Stevens?
Yeah, the EDA meeting was last evening, and Mr. Duncan was there as well. They spent a good 45 minutes talking about their council priorities, so I thought that was worthwhile to hear that. Obviously, they're focused on how to promote businesses within the city. They're very concerned about the loss of the Watch Night event in terms of how that affected restaurants, and so they'd like to see that resurrected somehow. They also mentioned that on Monday at 4 o'clock, there is a ribbon cutting at the Stratford. So if anybody's interested in that, it's scheduled for that time.
Great.
That's all I had, unless Mr. Duncan has some additional observations.
Just to follow on that, Matt, there was discussion either at that meeting or the mayor's scheduling meeting about the Virginia Village timetable changing. Do you have an update on when next that will see the light?
So in terms of schedule, we are considering a work session in late January to provide some updates. Since the November 17th work session, there's been some updates in terms of community engagement, conversations with property owners, with the development community. So some things we can report out, maybe packaged in time for that. And I'm sure at some point it'll be discussed with the council at their retreat as well. And depending on how that conversation goes, we will have additional guidance in terms of how to proceed beyond this month. So,
Good, thank you. This afternoon at lunchtime, I attended Delegate Marcus Simon's Road to Richmond annual luncheon, where he gives an overview of the goings-on in Richmond and his particular interests. And there was a good bit of little discussion about affordable housing and ideas that are being kicked around by legislators as well as the governor's transition committee members. Particularly, he mentioned a focus on preserving affordable housing, such as our housing on Ellison Street, and just thought that we ought to keep an eye on that and encourage any efforts that Richmond might undertake to help us, particularly if there's money involved or process improvements that might enable us to hang on to the affordable rentals at the Ellison Street project. And there was discussion about sort of affordable housing generally, and we'll see how that turns out. Thanks to Art Egan, to reiterate our appreciation for him signing on as our liaison. Happy to have you. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
Councilmember Egan does have his hand up too, maybe
great.
following Commissioner.
Go ahead, Art. I can't see your hand. Thank you, Mr. Trainer.
So, thank you for a very entertaining evening. Stuck here in a hotel room, you need some entertainment, obviously. One thing that you've probably heard at some of the others, the City Council has been requesting feedback for the work session for the retreat from all the boards and commissions. I didn't see anything on here regarding the Planning Commission putting together feedback going into the retreat. I don't know if you've already done it, which would be great, but I wanted to bring that up because we definitely want to get the Planning Commission's input.
Yeah, I think our plan is to discuss those two questions, which, to remind the commission, is what are the most important priorities for the City of Falls Church, and why are these priorities important to our community? Those are the questions that City Council has asked all boards and commissions to answer, and I think one of the agenda items for the events next week will be those
Yeah, so
discussions.
it's next Wednesday, we'll
those two
cover that.
questions. Yes. So we're going to talk about it in person as a group next Wednesday.
Okay, great. Thanks.
But yeah, thank you for that. And I guess if there's no other commissioner reports, I did want to, and maybe this is going to be in the director's report, Mr. Matusek, to discussion of the plans for the advance next week.
yeah, later this week, we will be sending out a presentation providing some essential information to guide the conversation next week and share what we've been working on internally for the last 2 to 3 months in terms of what we want to work on, how do we address the council's priorities, and how do we synthesize feedback we receive from this commission in recent months about, what are some of the strategic items we should be tackling. Once we do get to the 14th, Jack and I and some others are kind of preparing some additional exercises to kind of have a more interactive experience. We've heard those work better in the past. And we really want to kind of have a more robust conversation to get people's feedbacks, but also in a more strategic way. So with the thought in mind of how do we navigate competing priorities, limited resources, and things that perhaps continue to be pushed out further and further out, but at some point really need to be tackled. So that and, kind of reconciling that with new priorities that were not here last year, how do we move forward? So I think it's something between the presentation and the exercises. We should have a pretty interesting night. So looking forward to it.
That sounds great. Thank you. And do you think we'll have time for maybe a little bit of housekeeping on discussion for the speaker series, and if we want to continue that, and any feedback on the site plan or the sort of the process that we used for that, the recommendation?
I'm sure we can accommodate it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't anticipate that they would take a long time. Well, that was my other question. Yeah, normally we do these a little bit earlier and include like Panera sandwiches kind of thing for everybody. Is that the intention this time? Or do we
Yeah, I was gonna just.
ask us?
I was gonna remind folks, yeah, that I'll send around the menu again. So
Okay.
we'll do the lunchbox stuff. Comes with a sandwich or like a salad, chips, and usually one other item, like a cookie or something. So I'll send those around, and if folks could get back to me by the end of this week, so we could put those orders in. And so, yeah, I think the intention is to hold the advance actually in this room. All the other rooms are booked, unfortunately, that night. We're usually in the Dogwood room, but yeah, that's unavailable next week. So we'll probably be here at this table to, recreate the Dogwood experience as best we can.
Is this not a good opportunity to leverage Madera for their conference room that was been made available to local community members? We could bring in pastries from Tate next door. No, I doubt they're giving that out. We can do it here. It's fine.
That is a good thought. I mean, we could look into that, and if not, we definitely have more time to think about it for next year's advance.
How about the
too.
big theater at the Paragon?
Yeah,
I feel like there could be
In the IMAX room?
Everybody gets a
Yeah,
Lunchbox and some popcorn.
They said, right?
No, that was awful for the candidate forum. It was just, you were just there on the stage and, oh.
I'm just thinking of comfortable seats sometimes.
Yeah, those are pretty comfortable.
Or we get like Ellie Bird's extra space. Just like take it over. I'm just saying.
All right,
there are
ideas for
other
next
options.
year.
27.
Mr. Trader,
Options
get
for
creative.
27.
Did you mention the start time? Is it 6:30?
6 or 6:30?
I think we still had it at
6
this.
or 7:30?
Well, what would be best for folks? I don't know that we had.
6:30
I've got a
is
very early flight on Thursday, so the earlier the better for me.
Okay.
Didn't we have to advertise it? Like the time, start time? Is it too late to change that? Did we advertise it?
I'll double check on that.
We have to post it somewhere if we're all meeting. And if we already
Yeah,
put the
I
time
mean,
out,
right.
it'd be too late to change it.
On top of the, I'll double check on the requirements for changing the meeting. I mean, the normal public meeting requirements will be met like normal, and there's still time to do that. I think it's between 3 or 5 days. So we can double check that. But if there's a preference for 6 or 6:30, we can make sure that we can accommodate that, and we'll confirm that.
Any votes for 6:30? 6:30, raise your hand. 6:30, 1, 2, 3.
Can we vote for 6?
I can go either way.
Okay.
6 would be better, but I can make 6:30 work.
6:30 is easier. I'm coming out of the city, so it's easier for me. If that's okay with you. Yeah.
6:30. Okay, we'll double check on that, and I'll let folks know.
Thank you. That's the last meeting for the month. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 2 quick back-to-back. Okay. Mr. Matusek, was there any other director report items or just the advance?
That was the only one?
Okay. Any correspondence?
No, Chair.
Okay. That's it. I think we are all done. 6 minutes early. All right, thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you, Art. Looking forward to working with you.